Kiefer, seconded by Jorgensen, to approve the agenda. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Second item, public comment. Chair recognizes Gordon Bogie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been a lot of talk about special election coming up. The school board just had one here a while back, talking about having another one in September for the ambulance thing. The citizens would like to know, what does a special election cost? We would like to have the auditor come up with an itemized bill from the last 3 special elections, because when the coalition petitioned the board to go to districts, the auditor said it was like $12,000. Now the auditor's talking like it's $20,000. So we would like an itemized statement to actually know, so the citizens of this county know what it costs to have a special election.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment at this time? All right, hearing none. Item 3, review and action regarding the approval of the January 16th, 2024 supervisor minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the
God damn it.
January 16, 2024 minutes.
A second.
It's been moved by Supervisor Jorgensen, second by Kiefer, to approve the January 16th meeting of the board. Further discussion? Those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Item 4, review action regarding approval of claims.
I had,
Yes.
Gloria, you probably explained this to me a year ago, but for the early childhood development, there's a payment of $23,000. And some of that money went to Osage, and they're part of that program apparently.
So we're the fiscal agent for the Floyd Mitchell Chickasaw and the P4C, which is Cerro Gordo, Winnebago, yeah, help me out here on those words. Franklin and Hancock.
Yeah, there's
Those are the 4.
Chickasaw, you say Chickasaw?
That's Floyd Mitchell Chickasaw.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're the fiscal agent. So we have to process those claims for them, but it's all funded through a grant.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yep.
Make a motion to approve claims as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen and seconded by Kiefer to approve the claims as presented. Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Item 5, updates on various boards, commissions, and activities since the last meeting.
Like the regular board meetings.
I had a chamber meeting and a North Cedar Aviation Authority meeting.
Motion second, January 15, further discussion. All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
I did not have a county meeting. I did not have an official county meeting. Item 6, update on law enforcement center courthouse project, including the progress report. We've got the pay app in there that we've considered before, and we didn't approve that. That's the one for $806,000. We've been making some pretty good progress on the courthouse project. And as you note, it says 806,000 minus 10%. So pay app is 725,536 and pay with American Rescue Plan Act funds as we have been planning on doing. Now that's that amount, that 10% is the retainage that's still in there. And Auditor Carr, if you want to explain a little bit more about, it's all in your pack of what that $806,000 was. A lot of that is for services that haven't been performed to date.
Yeah, so Dennis and I met with Jason last week. And, Wednesday,
Wednesday
here's
it was.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was here Tuesday and Wednesday. So this is the payout that was presented, we got it from Bill Healy on November 30th. This is one I mentioned to you that I thought we shouldn't pay because there was too much unfinished stuff on the project. So what Jason asked for consideration of was that, there's several of those contracts on here that you can see through the 8 pages that are waiting on their retainage because they finished their part of the project. This, you have Mark from the from the news radio station, mute his phone. He's the one that's showing up is talking. That was that. Still coming across.
All right,
Let me, there he did it. Okay, sorry about that, that was cutting in there. So Jason asked if the board would consider paying a portion, or leaving a portion of the balance for retainage for the companies that haven't finished projects, like Young Plumbing, or the sweeper who Noah's doing the work for. And, so this releases all but that 10% so that they can pay those, like MPC that put up these panels here, they've not been paid 100% because of the retainage. And so he wants to be able to pay, like that project's been done MPC's been done for nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
And they're still waiting on their retainage. So this allows them to pay those vendors or those contractors and still leaves that money in there for deducts and for additional work to be done. So Young Plumbing was here last week and did a lot of work last week. This week we should see some ceilings and plaster work, some of that kind of stuff. So it's moving along, but when Dennis, maybe you want to mention, our conversation with Jason was 10%.
Yeah.
One other thing, Mills is gonna correct the water heater issue. Pipes freezing up and not being able to have hot water. They'll do the same thing they did with the boilers. They'll draw the air from inside the penthouse instead of outside.
So they've been on hook, but I got a call on Saturday that the system shut down again.
Okay.
So I don't know if him looking at that and make sure that there's enough air to draw from, or if that's why it's shutting down.
Is it super cold temperatures outside that create this problem?
But
Because
initially it was the icicles freezing up, shut it down, because it wasn't getting.
So then they disconnected them on the inside where they connected the water heaters. So then it was drawn from inside the mechanical room. But they quit again.
Quit on Saturday, I got a call from the jail on Saturday.
Probably should let Mills know.
Yeah, but so it's not that, I don't know if it's froze up or not, but that's not causing the shutdown.
Right.
Maybe not getting enough air.
They don't use as much air as the boilers do.
Yeah.
Okay.
so paying this pay app minus the 10% allows for that retainage on those contractors that aren't completed with the project.
I'll make a motion to make that payment to Samuel's group.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Kiefer, seconded by Jorgensen to pay $725,536 with American Rescue Plan Act funds. The courthouse project. Further discussion? Chair recognizes Gordon Bowie.
Yeah, Gordon Bowie Coalition. Who decided to only hold back 10%? Where'd that number come from?
It came from Tori.
Why not we're holding 20% back? If this thing ain't getting it done, will that move it along faster if we keep a little more money back?
I I don't have an answer for that, Gordy. It was just a number that we all agreed on at the time.
No, because
With the contract,
because there's not that much left to do. The 80,000 we're holding back covers work that needs to be done yet.
we're sure of that.
The rest of it, the 700,000 pays for what's already completed.
Completed, and that still has some retainage, but this just gives us some leverage to have some money in case, for the rest of
I just trying to figure out maybe 10% ain't enough to get this thing done. But if that's what you think is adequate, then I guess I don't have to question it any further, but 10% seems like a pretty small amount out of the 800,000.
There's not a lot to be done yet either.
Okay.
Gordy.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to pay, $725,536 from the, American Rescue Plan Act for the courthouse project. Further comment, anyone listening on the phone line? Those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Item 7 is the proclamation on anti-human trafficking. And Lori, you said we have a guest here?
Jill, Renee, if you want to come up to the podium.
Yes, please introduce yourself. Welcome to the board meeting.
Thank you. My name is Lynne Debner, and I am on the board with the state of Iowa Against Human Trafficking. I also partner with the North Central Iowa Coalition Against Human Trafficking, and we are trying to promote, Governor Reynolds signed a proclamation declaring January Human Trafficking Awareness Month. So I am trying to go around to different businesses and organizations and get everyone to sign the proclamation to help fight this terrible thing and bring awareness to the communities. Our coalition is also available to do any presentations, trainings, anything like that that you may need for within all communities in 12 counties to bring awareness for human trafficking. I know we showed the movie Grid Shock last year here at your theater. It was a big success. I'm trying to promote that again this year. That is a great thing because it is a documentary that is specific to trafficking in Iowa. It's very rampant here, and we all need to be aware. So I appreciate you signing the proclamation for us.
All right, thank you. Well, why don't we read that? And if you'd like to, you have a copy, or we can read it.
If I can.
We'll follow along.
All right. The Anti-Human Trafficking Proclamation. Whereas human trafficking is a widespread crime and devastating to society as a whole. And whereas human trafficking is not restricted to any group of people, but crosses racial, educational, gender, age, and economic barriers. And whereas the crime of human trafficking violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity. And whereas human trafficking cannot be prevented by one individual, community, organization, or government. And whereas to improve the lives of those we serve, we must activate connections through partnerships that impact individual, family, community, and societal health and well-being. And whereas January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month, a time to highlight the importance of collaborating across multiple sectors to build human trafficking prevention initiatives that work. And whereas Iowa Business Against Human Trafficking is a statewide initiative by the Iowa Secretary of State's office, which encourages businesses, agencies, and other entities to learn something and do something and to help end trafficking in Iowa. Now therefore, the Floyd County Board of Supervisors hereby join forces to combat human trafficking in Iowa and proclaims Floyd County's commitment to engage in anti-trafficking initiatives, including the Iowa Business Against Human Trafficking Learn Something and Do Something program, and urges all of our business and citizens to take a stand with us to make our county and state a better place. Signed by the Floyd County Board of Supervisors, this 22nd day of January 2024.
What is the Iowa Businesses Against Trafficking Learn Something and Do Something program?
So that is there was a program, it was called IHAT, and it was the Iowa Hotels Against Trafficking. And they went around and they had trainings done to all hotels, and then they were certified. And so all of their employees took this training. They should be, there should be a list of them if you go to stay at a hotel. And a lot of people are using that tool to stay at hotels so they know they're in a little bit what they feel, of course, safer environment. We now have turned that into the Iowa Businesses Against Human Trafficking. Same concept, going out, doing training to businesses so that people can be aware of people coming into their businesses and their surroundings on a personal level as well.
I'm aware that, because I applied for a tourism grant for the state 2 years ago, and we were using local hotels, and they had to be certified to have that program before they would be allowed into the program, so that's a good thing.
So it's just a continuation of the hotels, now it's the businesses.
How does the hotel get certified?
They go through a training process and then they train their employees as well. There's a training curriculum. I personally have not seen that, but I know of it. I know about it, but I haven't actually seen it. But I know it's a training program.
Yeah, Chair recognizes the Auditor Carr.
So on that part, our conservation department has to go through that. And actually I happened to, when Spencer Jody was hired, he was here one day doing his new employee orientation, and he went online and did that. It's got some questions that you answer about awareness, and it's but every employee is supposed to take that through the hotels in order to get that recognition. Right, they are and working with that. But I just also wanted to say that the county did register in 2022 for the do something. The Iowa Secretary of State has that IVAT initiative as well, and it goes beyond just the hotel thing. It does have where businesses can get engaged, and businesses, to hold events, sponsor events like the movie, or just putting signs up, just saying they'll put signs up like we have in our bathrooms and things like that. Say something, do something is where the county is registered for that in 2022.
I have seen some of the IBAT training, little bits and pieces of it, because I was kind of involved in putting that together. But I haven't seen the final. But again, we go around, my partner and I, with the North Central Iowa Coalition, and your county is one of our counties. So we're trying to just bring awareness, speak at schools, churches, Rotary clubs, Lions meetings, and anything we can get into will come.
If they have flyers like for payroll stuffers, and we've done that.
Good. So,
Yeah, I have endless amounts of resources to give anybody, so.
do you ever go to truck stops?
I have gone personally I do a lot of traveling, so as I'm going, I will stop. I have like stickers, pamphlets, and everything that I just keep in my car. So I will go in, but of course I have to always ask permission to put up things.
There's a truckers association also that is signed up with that also.
Correct. They have a very large, TAT, Truckers Against Trafficking. And they have their own organization too, and they print materials as well, and they're big. They're big. I've seen on the backs of semis, writing and stuff. So they're very active, the truckers are.
Yeah, I know the executive director of the Iowa Motor Truck Association, Scott Newhart, is involved in this whole program. So it's just a vehicle for trafficking. Any questions from the board?
Are you aware of the group TLS? Ever heard of that?
What, I don't know what that,
It's a anti-trafficking group,
in Iowa?
worldwide, I guess. I don't know much about it, but
I don't know what that stands for.
I didn't know the light something.
That one I don't know.
But
There's a few.
yeah, that's fine. I just don't know if you're.
Yeah, I don't know that.
I don't know a lot about it either.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I'm also an ambassador with Shared Hope International. They do a lot of training and have a lot of resources and things like that. So there's a lot of different, a lot of different groups. I get a lot of my things from the Department of Homeland Security, from the Blue Campaign. So I can get endless supply of things from them. So there's a lot of different places. It's getting bigger and bigger, which I'm really happy about, because especially, here in Iowa, because nobody thinks it's happening here. And it's very, very rampant here, very rampant in all your little towns. I did a talk in Sheffield, 3 cases there going on right now. So, I'm originally from Greene, so I know what's going on there. It's all over.
Supervisor Keith.
So that must be an indication that it's getting worse,
Yes.
growing and getting
Yes,
worse, right?
yes. Social media, social media is our killer. That's the biggest culprit right now too. And it's not just sex trafficking, it's labor trafficking. It's not just girls, it's boys. Boys are on the rise to be in demand. The social media trafficking problem increased last year 1,800%. It's terrible. And, I could go on and on, but it also, comes into play of blackmail, suicide rate has gone up from that. So yeah, it's just getting worse and worse. Unfortunately.
All right, Carol.
So, Linnea is working on having that meeting here at the theater, and so the county is part of that. We'll push things out, when that information comes out to cities and through payroll, and, try to make awareness for that. We had a decent turnout the last
You had a
time,
great turnout.
when we had the movie, and then they do a little, talk as well. So whenever that comes, if you get a chance to go to it, it is really good.
What's the name of the movie again?
Grid Shock. It's kind of a private documentary, so we had to buy the rights to take it around and show it, but it's about 50 minutes. But again, it's specific to Iowa.
All right, thank you for bringing this forward.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the anti-human trafficking proclamation?
Motion to approve the anti-human trafficking proclamation.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, a second by Keeper, to approve the anti-human trafficking proclamation. Further discussion? Any comments for anyone listening on the phone line? Those in favor of the proclamation, the motion for the proclamation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. All right, we can sign that now.
Take a picture with you, all of you with Linnea.
Again, I appreciate this and
Jim, you wanna come on?
spreading the word. Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
All right, we've moved on to item 8, review and action regarding consideration of additional appointments to the Emergency Medical Service Advisory Council. In the packet, there were names of 2 people who have submitted applications to serve in that capacity. Marty Parcher was one of them, and the other one was
Kendall Roll.
Kendall Wolf.
No.
Kendall Nolt, excuse me.
Yeah.
How many members are on the advisory council now?
Oh, I think there's five, I guess, I think. I'm a non-voting member. Pat Lumley, Dawn,
Dave,
Donna, who's that?
Dave Lewitt on there.
Dave Lewitt, the gentleman from Green,
Jeff Sterling.
Sterling. Yeah. Five.
There's no limit to how many it can be.
No, not to my knowledge.
No, we just want to get a balance throughout the county and get input from a host of group of individuals. I always wondered why the Board of Supervisors isn't a member of the voting member of the advisory council.
I guess it wasn't, as I got on that committee, I don't know why we're not, but it's, that's the way it was when I got there, so.
I think it's because they're, the
Hello, who's this?
information's given to
Hello,
you.
excuse me, you're
Hey, sorry.
feeding into the supervisors meeting.
I can.
Yeah, Mark.
Oh, who is this?
Brandy, sorry. Must be cutting
Oh,
out.
okay, I'll recognize you.
Sorry.
Brandy, Molitor.
Yep.
Recognize.
The non-voting thing for the Board of Supervisors, I think is because we give the recommendation to the supervisors. Is why they do the non-voting, is from what I understand.
Okay, that makes sense. And the makeup now, there's five, this would be seven.
If that memory serves me correctly, yes.
Then you're not included in that one.
I'm not included in that head count.
Is my application still active for the numbers?
Input, just a minute, Brandy. We're just talking about the number of people. There's no magic number. There's no limit you can be. In fact, I think it's a good idea to have a broader representation. So that we're not choosing one or two or two or three.
I'll make a motion to approve Kendall Nolt and Martin Parcher for the EMS Advisory Council.
A second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, second by Kiefer to approve Martin Parcher and
Kendall.
Kendall Nolt to the advisory council. Further discussion. I know Marty Parcher. Kendall Nolt looks like he's got good recommendations and he's involved with the Caldwell Fire Department.
Different areas of the county.
Yeah, I think that's
Right
right.
now.
Made them likely candidates.
Any comments from anyone listening on the phone before we vote on these two? Hearing none, those in favor of appointing Marty Parcher and Kendall Nolt to the advisory board, EMS Advisory Council. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have someone on the line who has an active, application. Sounds like she wants on the advisory council.
I would suggest, that in the past, the advisory council is involved in that and actually have some process in bringing that to us. I would, like to see that process go that way again if someone else gets on.
Do we have an application for this third person?
I think Lori's got it right there, don't you?
Wait, I have it from the last time,
Oh,
all the applications,
okay.
the last time.
From my understanding at the meeting the other night, it wasn't about going through the advisory council. It's like to go for the board of supervisors to choose.
Yeah, you are correct on that. It is the supervisor's appointment.
That's what, I think there was some confusion. I thought that was clarity to it. That's why I jumped on. And then also about
understand.
Nashua.
I'll make a motion to add Brandy Monitor to the advisory board, EMC.
Yes,
The
yes, you can.
advisory council. EMS advisory council.
And you pass around her application. Let's see. She's a, Floyd County EMS Association president, Charles City Fire Department firefighter. Got a couple of, one of those people I know, Dave Lute. It's like a pretty thorough, application. She's very interested in the position. How do we, what's our makeup on gender?
I don't know if it has to be a gender-based.
It's just, we try to do that the best we can. It's one of the recommendations we currently have in state law to try to balance out gender on boards and commission. It's not a requirement. In fact, actually, the legislature is talking about removing it, but, what is the
2 women and now 5 men.
2 women in 5 men? Sounds like we have a person that's pretty interested in being involved in it, and so look at that. I'd second your motion, Supervisor Keeper. So we have a motion and a second to appoint Brandy Molitor as well to the advisory council for the EMS advisory council. Is there further discussion? Chair recognizes Gordy Vogt.
Yeah, Mark, where's Brandy employed at right now?
I know she said works as a substitute teacher. I've seen her
What
at
was
the
your
high school
question?
time.
I am, and I'm still at AMR.
Okay, we'll let her answer that question. Brandy, where do you work at now?
A multitude. I've been at AMR for 23 years, and then I'm on Nashua EMS, and I'm sub-teaching with you, Mark, and I'm a mom.
All right, further questions or comments? Those in favor of appointing Brandy Mahler to the EMS Advisory Council, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion approved. We've got 3 new members to the Advisory Council. When do you next meet?
believe it's February 13th.
All right, and who sends out those? Patrick Lumley, does he?
Typically Patrick does, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure that all three of these people are, included in the next meeting.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 9, review and action regarding Drainage District 3 open ditch assessment. Waiver period and interest rates on waivers. In your packet, we had what we're considering is costs that include, there it is, it's on page, starts on page 17 of 20 in the packet. And it starts with services that we're back to July 25th of 2022. Under car, I wasn't here, none of us were here then, but this was for the reclassification and annexation of properties into Drainage District 3. Is that what some of this money is for?
Yes, it's broken down there in columns there for you as well to show what was annexation and what was reclassification.
Can you show us what that is? I see all the Bolton and Mink invoices on the right. And then how much was for,
So,
excuse me, I see it now.
There's
Annexation and
4
reclassification.
yeah, there's 4 columns there.
Okay, what is the total of that one?
The total of that column,
Yeah, annexation and reclassification.
the total that we're requesting is the 114.
Right, we're totaling that one up. The invoices go through July 28th of 2023, and we're gonna get totals in all these columns here. That's what's that's missing from this.
Because it was presented as.
It just, more information is better.
Reclassification and annexation was 48,953.74.
48.9,
53.74.
okay. How about to the left of that one, services through public hearings? And that
That
survey
was,
design,
those were things through part of the design for the project. That's 37,628. And that also includes the attorney addressing the issue that Norman Schweitzer brought up is in that number.
and the bulk of those were in, before this board took office. We had $7,053 on, I'm just gonna read the ones that were in 2022. $7,053, $6,075, $6,081, $7,663, $1,725, $4,611, $808.50. So of those, there are, well, there are 3.
Got one more in there, Mark.
What's that?
1380. December 30th, 22.
That's January 17th.
I
And
didn't
it
see
was
that one
paid
then.
on the 17th, it was invoiced on the 30th. Right? Is that the one?
Yeah, for $1,380.
Yeah.
Okay, I see where you're at now. And then construction plans and bidding. Don't want to slow this up, but can we just total those columns? So yeah, I think it's, we don't have, we just see the total 114. I think there are people here that are interested in knowing what those totals are.
Construction plans, documentation and bidding is 21,637. Construction engineering services is 6,506.50.
Okay, so, and then we get to construction engineering services. That's the one we haven't touched yet.
That was the 6,506.50.
Okay, and both of those were in 2022 as well. So that's a county though. And so the total, $114,725.24. And, so what we're doing here today is assessing the drainage district landowners for an amount to pay for this. And we have to assess a little more than that. Give them a period of time to pay that, determine what interest rate. So, what are our options for doing that? Our 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, how?
You just can't exceed 20 years for payment. And that's only the interest that you're terminating is the interest if they waiver the payments. They typically has been set at 5%. Anybody who has over $500 in an assessment could waiver their payments over whatever time period that we set at the interest.
That's the interest rate.
And so you're holding stamped warrants at 5% interest.
Got it.
So that's what you need to do more because you've got interest on stamped warrants that you're paying since.
And the county has been holding warrants on payments made to 2020, back to 2022 and for quite some time. So anyway, so that's, the options that are available to us. Chair recognizes Merlin White.
If I read the code correctly, it says in there that there is no interest on it if it was paid within 30 days from the time it's assessed.
That's correct.
That's correct.
The interest on the assessment, there's no interest on an assessment. That doesn't mean there's not interest on stamped warrants. But only if they waive, they're over the $500 and they want to do the waiver where they can spread it out over more years. That's the interest that the board would be setting today. But this 114,000 that is an option for them to assess today has stamped warrants that are have 5% interest on them. That what you're talking about is a different interest than what stamped warrants have.
So the assessments you sent out before for the back that the years you didn't pay that was due now, that actually back up. The warrant you sent out for $2,000 for District 3 to pay for the tile they fixed, so you'd have extra money, correct?
Correct. That's
Okay.
to cover stamped warrants that are sitting out there.
No,
And they
because you fixed the tile, you sent out an assessment to pay for the tile.
Okay, let's back up a little bit. We fixed the tile, paid whoever fixed the tile with a stamped warrant with 5% interest.
Okay. But it says that if you pay your bill within 30 days, when you get it, There's no interest on it.
There isn't any interest on the assessment total, but the assessment has to cover the principal of the stamp warrants and the interest on the stamp
Then why
warrants.
isn't the bill sent for the tile sent out within 30 days so a person can pay it without paying 5% interest on the warrants?
So I am going to let you guys answer these questions instead of me. They're your drainage districts. You can get Tyler on the phone, or you can pay your attorney again, which you've already paid your attorney from Merlin's questions, $1,955. And so I'm gonna let you guys, I get thrown under the bus by these guys, and it's not my responsibility. So you can.
Well, I just,
And the bill you got from the attorney, he didn't help us any. He was for Bolton and Mink. So we should have never paid that bill. Bolton and Mink should have paid it. Anyway, I'm just asking questions.
So the question was answered.
Well, she says you gotta pay interest on the warrants. So why isn't the bill sent out right away? So there is no payment on the warrants. So there is no interest on the warrants.
Well, I think you gotta go back and there was a previous board of supervisors that was involved in this for,
I'm talking, all right, now I'm talking about the bill they fixed the tile, okay? It was $900.
okay, that one,
Okay, and then you assessed it for $2,000.
right?
Okay, so she says we're paying money on interest on the warrants to pay that bill. So why wasn't that bill sent out right away so people could have paid it without paying any interest on the warrants? That's one question, okay? And then what she
Okay,
said.
but let's just deal with them one at a time, okay? To answer that question.
Jacob, when did you guys give us a bill for the 2,000, or for the $900, for the $2,000 assessment?
I can look it up really quick.
It was work they just did last fall, right? And you guys just.
That was the one on the main line we were talking about.
Right, and I got a bill in the mail for whatever the money was, they said within 30 days, that says no interest. So now she's telling me there's interest on the warrants that paid that bill.
That's correct. There's no interest if you pay your assessment in 30 days. There's no interest on that. But the stamped warrants, there's no money in the fund. And so a stamped warrant was issued to pay that bill. And I think it was October, November, or something like that when they did the work for that $2,000 one. And you guys just did that assessment this month. But there's two different interests that you're not
Okay,
understanding.
well, that's fine, the bill was $900, you said for $2,000, so there's $1,100 left. So the drainage district got to be paid interest on that $1,100, according to.
So the $1,100 sits in the drainage fund,
Then we should be collecting interest on it.
and you guys just check with Jessie. She's got interest.
Because that's what the code says, any money that the district has should be collected interest on.
So check with Jessie.
We can follow up the treasurer on
Okay. Thank you.
that. So, that resolved. We have $114,725 plus something. Because that's, has to have a little something in there in addition. So we're talking about assessing the drain district for a number higher than that, for how long a period of time, at what interest rate. How many landowners are involved in this assessment? We looked that up earlier, I know. And there was a maximum one, I know who the maximum was, one was, we looked that up, and, just for an example, without naming that person, it was how many $1,000s?
I think it was 3,000 something.
$3,000.
$100,000 assessment.
Yeah. That was the cost to that landowner in this particular assessment, so, you know, I don't think a 20-year spread here is probably necessary. Pay $3,000 over
wouldn't
20
think
years,
so.
you know, I'm thinking,
I mean, that probably goes back to acres too, right? It's not just landowners, but that particular landowner happens to have more
absolutely,
acres.
that's,
Yeah,
you know, it varies on where they're at,
yeah.
mean, lateral, and sort of thing, how many acres they have. And that was the highest assessment per a landowner, it would be
I wouldn't think, years would be necessary, but,
Yeah, I don't know if there's a typical in the past, we've done 5 years, they've done 10 years. The bigger one's coming, you know, and that'll be a next time. So,
what kind of, where's, I think the big question is the kind of interest, if they choose to use the interest, or, you know, make installments, so to speak.
right,
The largest one is on $100,000 assessment is $3,459.99. And that person, property happens to have 228.83 benefited acres.
so. Consider a motion to approve a spread in the interest rate for a figure over 114,725. The balance in the fund right now is zero. So essentially, anytime that these come up, we have to assess for a little more than what's in here.
It's a little more, 10% more? What is a little more?
So a little more, you know, $115,000 assessment is a very little more. I'd leave you $275.
Not very much.
Yeah.
Basically my stamps for the letters to go out.
You did 120,000 cover the interest on the stamped warrants and
That's
120?
120, but then we, in that motion, we want to have an interest rate too.
for anybody who does a waiver that has an assessment of $500 or higher. They're gonna pay interest over that, whatever time period you set on the waivered payments. So if they paid in 30 days, they're not gonna have any interest on their assessment bill, but they'll have, if they waiver it, they'll have interest on it. And if they don't waiver it, they don't pay it, they have interest and penalties on it at the treasurer's rate that's higher yet, if they don't pay it within the 30 days, which is 18%, I believe, is the penalty if they don't pay it in 30 days and don't sign a waiver.
Currently, the county is obligated at 5% interest.
You set that waiver interest rate. Set that. So
We set the waiver, but the stamped warrants are,
stamped warrants, Jesse's got 5% on those right now.
okay. And we need to be higher than stamped warrants to cover accruing interest, right? Without getting the mortgage calculator, it's about like throwing darts, for me anyway.
Oh, minimum would be 5.
Yeah, and we'd go backwards at that.
Yeah. Does it have to be an even number? Can it be a fraction of a percent, like 5.5 or 6.5?
And you're just talking the waiver.
Just the
So it's
waiver.
not doing anything with those stamped warrants.
Right.
Does Jesse know where's that? She has no way of figuring that either, probably.
She has a calculator that she can do the interest based on warrants, but if you were to do, say, the 120, do no less than 120 would be my recommendation. When you do the next assessment, we'll have a better picture of who's paid and where we're at. And that will be, they anticipate that everything with the project to be done in the fall because of seeding. You can, you know, I've mentioned in the last year that you could do those assessments with their annexation reclassification when those were completed mid last year. And it just got brought up again during budget time. But I don't disagree that I would want to. Knew there was something out there that I was gonna have to pay some interest on because of stamp warrants, I'd wanna get it paid, I'd wanna get assessed as soon as possible. Typically in a large project though, you don't do your drainage attorney would tell you, as well as Tyler from Bolton and Mango, or any engineering firm would tell you that you typically don't assess until a project is completed. So this initiative, from our conversation during the budget reviews, we were talking about interest on drainage warrants. I had mentioned again that you could do a assessment now, because you are just tacking on 5% on all these 114,000, and this just gets you into August.
There won't be another assessment until August, is what you're saying, right? After this.
You could do an assessment at any time, but a project, typically a larger project with a construction project, isn't done until the end of the project.
This one is a little different because we're talking about an assessment that was made in July of 2022. So this is going on for a while. Most projects don't drag on so long, because that's just the way this one works. Two complete different boards of supervisors, it's just unique. I'd entertain a motion.
I think the only thing I'm struggling with is where is the appropriate interest rate for the waivers? We just did, interest is climbing, and if we're gonna keep up with that, we wanna be above 5% for sure.
6 then.
That's pretty cheap. But I
We won't be losing any money at 6, so.
In the 6, you're only gonna get if the people waiver it. You're not gonna collect anything if
Right.
I would waiver it at 6.
because interest rates are
You
higher.
bet.
Well, it's a valid point, that the county isn't intended to be a bank for people. It's not that you're trying to take business away from the bank. And so that's very valid, what you're saying. It's not that you want to entice them to.
Mm-hmm. But if you want to use 6, that's okay. I'm fine with that. But
So we're talking 120,000,
6%.
interest on waivers.
Sure.
Only thing that's left is the spread. How many years?
5.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Also move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Kiefer, seconded by Jorgensen, to approve an assessment on Drainage District 3 for $120,000 over a 5-year spread at 6% interest on the waiver. Further discussion? Chair recognizes Merle Schweitzer.
Now, if you're going 5 years on it, is that gonna be the same the next time you assess, or are you gonna do it over again?
Next time. I guess it's another discussion.
That's just what I want to know.
Yeah,
You're gonna leave it the same, you're gonna raise the interest rates again, or you're gonna?
I guess next time we'll see what the economy is and make the best assessment to cover county's costs, yet provide for those who want to borrow the money from the county, essentially. Probably hard to do it at less than 6.
5% of 114,000 is $5,700, at 5%. And it shouldn't be figured for the whole year, but it should be figured on every month and year, the interest on the warrants. Because it's done different times of the year, it should take the whole month, 14, each warrant should have a different
Correct.
rate.
They do. Yes, it does it at a different.
All right, those in favor of the motion? Say aye. Aye. Motion is carried. All right, thank you for working through that. All right, item number 10. Good morning, Jacob.
Morning.
We have the agreement with Floyd. Things are changing in Floyd with roads. Is our agreement any different than it ever has been?
So this is the amendment to the 2080 agreement that we had made, just to have them pay for their portion of the project on the Third Avenue, paving. And the change is under item B, we had originally put, dates to have them pay us back by. I believe it was April 2024, was gonna be the end time for them to pay us back. Back last winter when we originally did this 2080 agreement. So I needed to strike those out because obviously we're not gonna have the road paved before April of 2024 now, because we haven't started. So I talked with the county attorney about this on, if I should, how to go about it. He said an amendment was the best and to just get rid of those dates and it should be fine. So, I drafted up this amendment to the 2080 agreement. I had Todd look at it. He thought it looked good. And I took it and presented it to Floyd City Council last Tuesday night, and they had no problems with it. They passed it 4-0. They were missing one from the meeting, and I was bringing it to you guys. So basically, the change is just to strike out the date, the timeline for when they needed to pay us back. So they just needed, this terminates in June of 25, but they will be fine to be able to pay us when the project is completed. That won't be an issue. Their funds are in a better shape right now than they were last year. So I guess I came up here to give you this too. I don't know if you guys had any questions on that 2080 or anything like that. It's pretty straightforward.
Any questions regarding this
Thanks.
amended 2080 agreement? You found in your packet.
I have any.
Is there a motion to approve it?
Make a motion to approve the amended 2080 agreement with the city of Floyd.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, seconded by Kiefer, to approve the amendment to the 2080 agreement regarding reimbursement, farm-to-market extensions with the city Floyd's corporate limits. Further discussion? Anyone listening on the call-in line? Hearing none, those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. What's been going on in the secondary road department?
So there's been snow finally. Winter decided to come. Guys were out for snow removal at least from January 12th to the 14th every day. That was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that last storm we had. Then they were out the 16th and the 19th as well last week. That's obviously been taking up a bunch of time for us. That's kind of been the main thing going on. Sign crews still doing sign repairs when they're not on snow. And then general shop maintenance. We haven't had luckily any big breakdowns in any of the storms, knock on wood. Gone pretty well. I think we had a couple hoses go, but nothing major. So, bridge crew is, I think they finished bending steel, and they just, last week they finished, getting the forms ready to pour box culverts, so they're gonna start this week. They should, hopefully we don't get, I know Wednesday, Thursday, looks like we might get some rain, ice mixture coming, if the temperatures stay up, so we'll see what happens with Wednesday, Thursday. But yeah, it's kind of normal winter operations now, instead of what we got to do last month where we didn't go out. I think we went out the 31st of December was the first time we went out, so. And then office wise, we're getting the documents ready to put our day labor projects out for bids. Same thing with Floyd 3rd Avenue paving project. That's where we're bringing the 2080 here. Now I just need to get the contract prepared and a few other loose ends, and then we'll send those out for bids and get bids back in February and see where prices are coming in at. still working through the raised grant process, with Fayette and Bremer County. So they've selected me as the lead county on this. They give you get more points. So it's all point scoring when you apply for these grants. And if haven't been awarded a grant before, you earn more points. So I have not received one. And then also if you've never applied, or I think if you've never been a lead county or entity on an application, you also receive more points. So I'm kind of leading the charge there. So I'm working through getting some accounts set up with the federal government on their websites so we can apply for these grants. And then we have a weekly kind of update meeting because this grant application is due in the middle of February. So it's not really a long time frame. We have less than a month, I believe, or maybe just at a month to get it completed. So that would be a pretty big focus here the next month. And then obviously I worked through some budget issues, and I think we got that sorted out. And I did forget to write down on there, Mark, I know you brought up that the rumble strips at T38.
Yeah.
I got Jake out there and he got pictures and measurements on those rumble strips, and they're all standard to what the DOT uses for their traffic and safety manual. I do agree, it does seem like they feel different, but when you go measure the depth and the width and the spacing, it's all the same as what it's supposed to be. So I don't know why it does feel different. Not really sure, but with it being standard, I don't want to go and try to change something that's already in the way it was supposed to be in, I guess.
Have you taken into consideration the fatality there, and we continue to have people coming from the south headed north and going to that intersection?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that there was a fatality there. I don't know if,
Multiple fatalities.
yes, it was years ago. I know the two in the same car accident. Then was there one?
There was one
2 years
prior
ago?
to that as well.
Okay,
The
okay,
stone cycle.
okay, yep.
That was before the 4-lane.
Right.
Yeah,
Mm.
yep. So, I know the DOT has put up more signage than it used to have. But other than that, I don't know. I don't think rumble strips will change that. I don't think that would be a solution there. I'm not aware of another different solution at this time, I guess. Not saying that there couldn't be one. But I'm not sure what else we would change there in that intersection, I guess. I can look into it more, but at this time I don't have anything, I guess, for it. But I have heard of those fatalities as well, so, yeah.
I wondered, you just said the difference between the sound. I wondered if I go up there a lot. I don't remember. Is one of them blacktop and one of them cement?
I thought they're both blacktop there.
Okay, I wondered if that was.
Could be different.
Yeah.
That could be one. I mean, they do maybe sound a little different, but I think they're both blacktop. But I do agree they maybe sound a little different, but then I go out and I measured them. I think I told you that last fall. It would have been the fall of 22. And I had the same thing Jake got. That's why I just sent him this time. So that way I did it once before, so maybe someone else should do it, see if they're getting the same thing as me. And he just took pictures of it, so you could put the tape measure on it so you could see, and it was all what it should be. So I don't know why they only did 2 sets of rumble strips instead of 3 on that side. I don't know if that was an old standard or why, because the standard currently doesn't specify an amount of sets of rumble strips to do. So.
Did it specify the depth of the rumble strips?
Yes, and those are at that specification, so.
When Jake went out there, he noted that if you drive 1 foot over or 2 foot over where the track is, it's totally different.
Yeah,
It's not nearly, it's a whole world of difference there, because it seems like it's been run over
yeah,
and wore down.
yeah.
Seems like a simple fix is just regrew it.
Yeah, it's another spot where you have to find someone who will come in and do that, and then try to, get an efficient amount of money's worth if we're gonna pay somebody to come here and to do some work like that. And I don't have a lot of other places that I can get them to do that. So I can look into what the cost is. But I know it's not really, I don't think even Heartland Asphalt does it. They're our main asphalt contractor around here, you know? But I don't want to go, if I'm measuring something, it looks standard, everything's standard, I don't wanna go and make a change to it, cause then why am I not doing that everywhere else too? That are all standard as well, if that makes sense?
Yes.
There's no light at that intersection, is there? Flashing light? There is.
There is, yes, but it's on the DOT's signs. No, there is, it's on
There's a
our,
red
it's on our
flasher
stop.
on the stop
Yeah,
sign.
it is on our stop sign, yeah.
I-
Yep, and the DOT has flashing lights in the median as well.
I thought there was, but I wasn't
Yes.
sure. I don't go through that often.
I think there's a yellow overhead one,
Yeah,
or maybe
or,
two.
yeah, they have different lighting there, cause it's not, that's not their standard lighting, they've added over the years, and I actually have gotten some of the past correspondence they've had on that intersection, I had them send me all the emails that they could, so I do have some record of that. Cause that was the office I used to work in, when I was with the DOT, so. Yeah, but I guess I'm kind of aware of the history of the area, so. But I did want to follow up with you on that we did get that checked out here. That was 2 weeks ago, maybe he got out there.
Do you have paperwork regarding that? Guys going out there and looking at that?
Yeah, he's got the pictures, if you want to see them,
Yeah,
I
we'd
can
like to
show them
see
to you. Yeah, would you like me to just bring them to a meeting here, or do you guys want to stop up and look?
Either way, the one thing is, remains different about those two is when you're coming from Osage, there's 3 sets
Yep,
and it's flat.
yep,
And you're coming towards the intersection to Osage,
yep,
right at Stouts, there's a rise there, and you don't see that sign
yep,
until you get over that rise. And then that first rumble strip hits. And just having to go through that intersection 2 times every day for the past year, it's just so noticeable.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's something with that crest, and I can look into it, but I know that stopping sight distance wise, I don't think there's any safety issues there at that intersection, you know? But I can show you those pictures if you'd like to come up, and I can show you the design standards as well. I think I had Jake print those off, so he's got those on file too, so. I like,
Just find out what it costs, do some rumble strips as well. Yes.
Jacob, I had a question on snow removal.
Yeah.
And, on the country roads, do you use trucks and plows or motor graders?
usually graders on the gravel roads.
Graders on the ground?
Yeah, and then trucks on the paved roads. I know that there's been times in the past where, you know, if there's a big ice storm or something, they might have to use a grader on the paved road to try to get into that ice a little more. But those are abnormal. I don't think that's happened since I've been around. We had a pretty mild winter last year, I guess, and I was hoping for the same this year. And maybe we still will have pretty mild, but yeah, it's usually graders on the gravel roads and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
plows
Yeah, this is
on the paved roads, so.
Okay. All right,
Oh,
just was curious.
Yeah. I'll find that cost on that review and the rumble strips. We'll get that here and, see what that cost is.
Pardon?
But yeah, otherwise, I don't have anything else unless you guys have
Online, what we talked about.
any other questions or.
I don't think I have any.
Okay.
No.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Chair recognizes Gordy Bogey.
Yes, as far as that north, as
Come
far
on
as
in
that,
there so we
as
can hear
far
you
as
on
that
this thing.
going north to the avenue off of T-38,
Yeah,
that north slope doesn't get the sun. And when it does get sun, I've been on that road already. And you come down to that, by the time you get to the 2 rumble strips, if that's a little slick, you ain't gonna make it. So I don't know if it'd be against protocol to add another set of rumble strips, but that north slope coming down to that avenue is dangerous. So I don't know if you added more rumble strips there, if you gotta do it all over the county or not. I don't think that, if there's a protocol there, but I would agree. That's kind of a hidden intersection from the south.
Yeah.
well, we're gonna continue to learn more about that and get some more data on that one. All right. I just placed a call, make sure that Adam Sears he's not gonna be at our meeting, but he is online. Adam, do you hear us?
Yes, I do.
All right, because we're moving on to the next item, which is discussion with county engineer, with Jacob and Adam, our conservation director, regarding the county weed commissioner position. And the county needs to designate a weed commissioner coming up pretty soon. March 1st, something like that?
Right.
February, something, soon enough. The weeds aren't growing, but we kind of know that this problem or this discussion's been going on for some time regarding how and what department this needs to would best serve Floyd County. So that's what we're talking about today. So just a current review of our weed commissioner now is Adam Sears, and what he gets paid for that is that information isn't in the packet. Adam, you're there. What do we what do you get paid for this? What do we pay you for that work?
$1,900.
And your role as it exists in the past is how does this work?
Basically, the supervisors appoint the weed commissioner, and what we ran into, besides the weed commissioners, nearly all the problems and complaints are from within the roadside. And so that's kind of why we're talking about this today. Just to kind of simplify things, we don't have a good system set up right now where we don't have the resources in the conservation department to do the work, so we have to request the secondary roads department to do any action as far as follow-up from a complaint. You know, this all falls into Iowa Code 317. The literature in that code, you know, it says like 317 11 talks about the county board of supervisors work with the transportation department to control, eradicate noxious weeds growing in the roads under their jurisdiction. It also 317.13, the program weed control eradication is issued by permits for burning, mowing, or spraying of roadside. A lot of the code is referring to the roadside work, because I'm looking at 317.18, and it says the county board of supervisors and the transportation department shall control or eradicate noxious weeds growing on the roads under their jurisdiction, and continues to speak about the right of way in that section. And then 317.19, the board of supervisors may appropriate monies to be used for the purpose of controlling or eradicating weeds or brush within the right of way of roads under county jurisdiction in a manner consistent with the county's program of weed control. So basically, it all boils down to number 317.20, talking about the board of supervisors may appropriate monies for the purpose of purchasing weed eradicating equipment and materials to carry out the duties on the roadways. So I don't have those resources, and so we've been kind of talking about this for years now, and it just makes sense for the weed commissioner to be within secondary roads. They have maybe up to 20 applicators that are that would meet the qualifications to be a weed commissioner. And they're the ones actively driving the roadways and managing those areas. It's just, they're the ones with the equipment and the means to do the work. So it's just, it makes sense to move that direction.
We're gonna give Jacob a adequate time here to talk and tell us about secondary roads department, how this works. But, so now you call in, is that how it works? Send an email? How often do you do this? Reporting weeds conditions to the secondary roads department. Who do you talk to? Just walk us through how this works.
Well, the process of the weed complaints are called into the weed commissioner at the conservation department office, and then I go out to investigate the work, the complaint, and, you know, a lot of times I end up contacting or sending an email to Jacob or somebody, Tim Lobby or Jacob, and let them know what occurred and what I found. And then they follow up with the spray equipment to go out and actually actively spray the weeds.
So, other than the complaints that you get, are you actively out on the roads? I mean, I know you got a lot of conservation parks, but, how is it that, who takes care of those concerns that are out there that nobody reports? You know, the weeds growing in spots.
The weeds, well, I don't know how many miles the secondary roads department drives per year, but they have brush spraying units and they're out spraying roadsides. I don't know how often and when, but I see their crew out, you know, doing that and actively spraying weeds. So it makes sense, I guess, to me to have them continue and just take care of the problems as they come forward.
Just one final question for me for a minute, Elizabeth. When did you assume the duties of the weed commissioner, or when did the conservation department and before you?
I think 2012 or 13, the conservation department took it from the secondary roads department. And then in 2015, I became the weed commissioner.
Okay. Well, that's just a kind of a little introduction. Jacob, how's this, what are you thinking about this, and how is it working now, I guess? That's kind of what I want to know first, and then give us any thoughts you might have on this.
I guess, I think I've shared this before. I think the process right now isn't great because we might get, you know, a complaint. Adam receives a complaint, then he has to go check it out. Then by the time he gets to check it out and get back to us, we might be in the middle of something else where we're not gonna pull guys off to go deal with that complaint that day. So then it becomes a more inefficient process. So I can see where there's frustration there. Like my staff that are in motor graders, I wouldn't have them be able to be a weed commissioner. They don't serve the whole county. They serve their own districts that they use. They don't go throughout the whole county to respond to complaints. So pretty much the only staff I have that would be able to do it is Tim Lobby, who's my road superintendent, who's also managing everything else we have going on out there. So I don't love to assign more roles and duties to him because I already have him focused on a lot of different other things. So that's where I think it gets to be a hard place for us. I understand we have the spray equipment and there are obviously problems in the right of way. I think last year I proposed to Adam to have either himself or one of his staff come. We have Monday morning meetings out at our shop, have somebody come and kind of make a proactive plan, you know, in February or early March to what areas we need to be spraying and where we've been having problems. And that didn't really happen last winter. So this is kind of in the same boat as we were last year. I don't know what your guys' feelings are on this or what you guys are thinking. I think Adam and I have both said this. I think the integrated roadside management program would be a great program to have. I know it's hard to be able to hire a new employee with our current situation we're in, budget wise, but, I think that would be, the best solution. But I guess that's a little bit of kind of what I'm thinking.
Yes, Dennis.
You currently have 4 foremen, right, Jacob?
Yep,
Couldn't one of those fulfill the role of a weed commissioner?
that would be Tim. I have 3 foremen and a road superintendent. And, my bridge foreman works on bridges and with the bridge crew. So my bridge foreman's not all over the place. My shop foreman's with the mechanics or the sign crew. And then my road foreman, is all over the place as well, just him and Tim. And he doesn't have a background with the weeds that I don't know if he would have enough background knowledge to be able to do that really well. Tim would, he's been around it. But it's basically just those two, you know?
So who's the foreman that's on the road all the time other than Tim?
That's Casey Side Demo. Yep.
He's on the road all the time, but he can't identify weeds.
I don't think he has a background in it, to be honest with you. I don't think he's been around it,
Could he be trained?
potentially. That's where I'm saying if I had to pick somebody, I'd be most comfortable with Tim doing it. But then it's just taking Tim away from other duties that we already have. That makes sense?
It does on Tim, but it doesn't on Casey. I think Casey could be trained if he's on the road all the time anyway. It seems like the most likely candidate to be a weed commissioner.
Yeah.
Give him some training.
I guess what I would want, if the board is feeling like you'd like the weed commissioner to be in my department, I guess I'd like to pick who I assign to be the weed commissioner in my department. If that makes sense.
So you currently have 20-some that are
Yes,
certified.
yes, it's more than 20, I think. It's almost everybody. So that way they can go spray if they need to. And then if blade operators need to be able to spray while they're out, they can. Doing more spot locations. We're not doing widespread spraying generally.
Right.
So.
Do you see it possible that, I know the motor graders are assigned to their own districts, but where if they spot infestations of weeds, that they could report them to someone and they could, and just a reporting, not a spraying, but
Yeah,
they're up there. And
that could be something we could implement as well. Yes.
Here, recognizing Gordon Bull.
Yeah, Gordon Bowie. How many active complaints did we have last year? I mean, I've had people tell me they call in about problems with the weeds in the ditch and nothing ever happens.
Adam, do you hear that question?
I'd have to pull up the file, but, probably around a dozen or more, maybe 15 last year. And, and when it's in the right of way, it becomes the secondary roads department, job to take care of those. So then I'm going out and inspecting the actual weeds and, turning it over to them. And, sometimes if I'm back in the neighborhood, I look at it and, I don't even notice that anything's getting done after I turn complaints in.
So a dozen complaints annually. I know last year we had those on that private property that were pretty significant. But are those the rare occasions or just?
That's extremely rare to have in our county to have the private land complaint. 90+% of them are in the right of way and people noticing problems with infestation. Just to touch on, there's 12 state recognized noxious weed plants. So it's not like it's some extensive list that's used to learn and understand. If you have a small booklet with them, with you, or start looking at them a little bit here and there, you can learn these 12 plans pretty easily.
And some of the serious ones are because they're getting into the fields. And then that's the issue that our farmers are talking about. Palmer amaranth is a problem.
Yeah.
Buckthorn is getting to be a problem. And then you have your thistles that people know about. I think quackgrass is actually on that list, but I don't think we're out spraying a lot of quackgrass. These are the primary. And then there's a secondary bunch of weeds as well.
Right.
Yeah, Gordy, go
And
ahead.
why can't we have a contract with a private company like AgVantage FS or Farmers Feed and Grain? Jacob's got his road grader guys, or Scythomal. Somebody calls in, there's a complaint. Instead of the county having that liability of going out there and taking care of them weeds, why can't we have some kind of a setup with any of the local agronomy departments and say, hey, we've got a problem on Underwood, north of 130th, go out there and spray it. That takes the liability off of the county, pay the bill, and it's done.
Right, that's a good example, because that's typically what it is. It's like what you just said, Underwood and 130th. I mean, you're kind of getting out of our jurisdiction. We have 33 areas that we manage, and, you know, Jacob says some of his guys don't get around to certain parts. Well, you know, we're not necessarily everywhere either, so it's kind of pointless for me to go look at it to tell somebody else, to tell someone else what to do. I can take myself out of the equation and it speeds things up a lot.
So we're operating with a total budget of actual, what we spray. What's that? I mean, what are we doing a year if we're thinking about sourcing this out?
Well, that'd be on Jacob's side of things, because we don't spray much in the right of way. Our spraying's done in our conservation areas. They have an actual account there, the rural basic account, for brush removal and spraying in the right of way. And it's pretty substantial amount of money that a lot of counties would put towards this type of control. And so he'd have to say what he's using.
I believe is road clearing 81,000, 82,000 for you? You have it over there.
Is that where you pay for that? It doesn't come out of the weed commissioner budget?
No, we don't have the weed commissioner budget. Adam does.
But that road clearing would be brush cutting and.
Brush cutting, spraying,
Yeah.
materials for it.
You've
I'll
got
look.
55,000 budgeted for agriculture and horticultural services, but I don't know that that's all.
That's not all of it. Let me.
Weeds, obviously, or we wouldn't be having weeds that would have. That 55,000.
Yeah, and what is the timeline when this has to be identified, when we need to identify a weed commissioner?
Before the end of February.
Before what?
Before the end of February, I believe. I think it's March 1, you have to
So
have one.
basically 30 days or a little less.
Yeah,
Or
but what,
little
like,
more.
what are your initial feelings, I guess, you three? You know, what are you thinking you wanna do? I mean, if we need to do it, I can figure it out. I just need to kind of know which way to go forward with here.
My feeling is it probably would be worth a shot to run it through your department. But
If that's what we
if
need.
it's dealt with, maybe it's best to have you deal with it and go forward and learn from the first year and change it for the second year.
I think if that's where we're feeling, I think that's the path to go, if that's what we wanna do. If you three are feeling that direction, we can get it figured out. If need be, so.
Okay.
Yes, of
I
course.
just don't know if there'd be anything, since the secondary roads crews are in a bargaining unit, if there'd be a difference in who you're titling as that commissioner.
That's why somebody, a union and staff wouldn't be able to be a weed
Right.
commissioner. So there's 4 guys that aren't union, and 2 of them wouldn't really apply to. So that's where I'm down to 2 guys. And I know who I'd have do it. Could be Tim. So, I've talked to him about it, and if we gotta make it work, we'll make it work. Just like I said, it's
Why
another,
can't the other guys be weed commissioners?
they're union employees, so they have job descriptions, and you couldn't change one guy's job description compared to everyone else's. They're all the same.
Well, the weed commissioner is a separate thing, the Iowa code, I don't know how that works, if that's exactly accurate.
I don't know how it'd go in a union negotiation if one guy was doing things different than the other guys, because he's taking time away from his normal duties to do weed commissioner activities, right?
So I always separated the two, I always tried to do completely outside of the conservation aspect, because this is a separate, budget.
Yes, but you're not a union employee, right?
No.
It gets a little trickier when you have the union employees.
I think your employee is a union employee first and a weed commissioner, perhaps, so.
You're setting based on a,
Job description,
Job
and
description.
certain dollar rate that they're all the same, if they're at a certain job description, so.
and if you gave one person the duties without a different,
Opening it up, and you'd have to open it up, and you'd have to open it up to everybody.
or if you made him do that work and without any pay, other than what's in his contract, you're gonna have an issue. because-
Yes, and I wouldn't wanna do that to someone anyway, 'cause that's not right. I can figure it out internally if that's where the board is feeling, we can figure it out, but I just wanted to know where you guys are thinking.
Well,
But it is their job to
Appoint.
appoint.
would it be appropriate to have Jacob come back with a name that we can take action on for weed commissioner?
Well, and initially that would be included, but you know, what's the program gonna kind of look like?
Yeah, you would kinda wanna look at the budget, cause I
You
did,
go, how much money it's gonna cost, yeah, that's kind of important too.
so give us a couple weeks, come back. And we got, so today's the 22nd, so we got a couple weeks, would that be fine? A timeline with you guys?
Yeah, we can't make a decision today apparently, so I would, can I make a comment, Chair?
Yes, certainly.
Is there any merit into researching, have an Ag Vantage or Farmers Feed and Grain or somebody do the spraying after we identify them?
I can look into it in the next couple weeks as well.
Yeah,
No doubt would hit your budget a lot harder.
Yeah,
but
they're
we
gonna
don't know that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it would.
We don't charge, yeah, so with the way the road clearing works currently, there's material that comes out of it, for the spraying and the brush cutting, and then at the end, the end balance of that budget gets transferred to secondary roads as the contract spraying, basically. So for the year, I think it's usually between 55,000 and 60,000 that gets transferred to us. And I can't imagine that it would be that cheap to get someone else to do the amount of work that they do.
Can we find out?
I can look into it.
Jim?
I think it's a great idea to consider those groundlings to do that. However, I do think they struggle getting their work done the way it is now. Everybody's looking for qualified, good help, and they don't have it either. There is and if you can get them to do it, that's great. I just don't see it happening. There is, some privates through the county. One of them reseeded the grass out there at, H&S mowing. You know, there's people, I'm sure he would entertain that too. I don't know if he does it regularly, but he does a lot of things. There's probably others too that.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you can keep it in-house and make it work, or
Yeah.
price shop it outside, you know.
Well, I think like Jim was saying before, is if we're gonna make this change, give us a year to try to see how it goes before we make any drastic changes, see how things work out. I wouldn't be opposed to that either. Revisit it again next year.
All right. Chair recognizes Gordon
Yeah,
Bowie.
Gordon Bowie. I guess my question is, I don't know if Adam would really be upset if he lost that position or not.
I think it's pretty clear he wouldn't.
You know, I mean, that's something to consider, but I don't think he'd be too upset if he didn't have the weed commissioner hat to wear on top of everything else.
That's
And he doesn't get
$19.
pay either. $1,900.
$965.
Yeah. So, all right, I think we've kind of talked around this and came up with a direction, and look forward to Jacob coming back with some ideas for us in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good.
We appreciate
Can I
that.
ask one more question?
Yeah,
In your Department 20 or 41 budget,
Yeah.
Jacob, like what part, you have a line item for chemicals and herbicides, 10,000 in a budget but that's for not just this weed, that's for like if you're spraying a tree, cut a tree down, spray it, tear it on or whatever,
Yeah,
that's.
that's all real clear. Same thing with brush cutting and everything like that. It's anything to do with that.
Yeah.
So,
I just wondered if any of that would go towards the weed commissioner budget, if it's, or should it, I guess.
I don't think it should, because it's working the right of way. I think that's the intent, and that budget, I don't think it's changed in, I haven't changed it the 2 years I've been, I just did the same dollar amount that it was before, and I think Dusty had it that way for a long time. So I mean, it's been 81,000 or 82,000,
87.
sorry, 87,000, I think it's been that way for
83.
Something, it's right in there.
This year you've got, for fiscal year 25, you've got 88,300 that you've requested.
Okay. So it's been about that for years and years and years, because I don't believe I changed it the last 2 years.
I think it went down actually.
how much gets used?
They use it all because at the end of the year, they'll do one claim for zeroing it out.
Basically for the service, for doing all of the spraying, that's the way I understood it. I think I talked to Dusty about it, last year maybe, because I was trying to get my head wrapped around it.
So it's not for chemicals, it's for labor.
Well, there's a line item that's $10,000 for chemicals and actually its budget is 10,000, but in fiscal year 22, 21,014 was spent, fiscal year 23, 21,444 was spent. So far this year, it's 5,122 has been spent
For chemicals.
for chemicals. But I know in the end, that in June, they just did one claim to zero it out because of the work that they've done. And it doesn't support 100% of the work that they've done.
No, yeah, it doesn't support all of it. I think it's just like a little kickback type thing, I think is the way I understand it. I don't know how long ago it was set up that way. Has it always kind of been that way since you've been around?
The numbers have changed a little bit. I think at one time it was maybe like 84,000 and maybe bumped up. I think it was, I think it might have been 85,000 more than what the 87,000 that it's dropped back down over the years, without looking it up.
Yeah, but just, it's kind of been the same process for a long time.
So right now, the Department 24, the weed commissioner budget is a little over $3,000 is what the overall weed commissioner appropriation is, I guess. So, I mean, you just move that to wherever and that's, I don't see that changing a whole lot.
Well, I was wondering about, because we only had 12 complaints, $3,000 might probably do it. Yeah.
Well, 2,000 of that is wages, benefits for whoever's doing it, so it's only less than 1,500 for other stuff, the licenses, publication that goes in the paper.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever spent more than 3,000 in that budget.
Last year, I think fiscal year 23 was.
Just wanted to check with Jacob, but at some point or another, you're gonna go out, somebody's gonna go out and spray something. And somebody's fruit tree is gonna die, whether you sprayed it or not. They're gonna zing you for the insurance, so you might happen the first year, might happen the second year, but
Yeah.
is there insurance in place for, a garden? Nobody wants to kill a garden, but it's a lot cheaper than a fruit tree that dies on its own.
Yeah.
something to consider the insurance liability.
Well, even if you contract it, here's, if something happened, you potentially could still be covered in a claim.
Yeah.
To cover costs.
I would wonder if the contractor wouldn't have their own insurance, but maybe not.
Yeah.
That's all how it's written.
Would it make any sense to open this up to bids to the public? You know, maybe have 2 or 3 different people that are in that or a similar business make a bid to take care of it, or maybe that's not, you don't know how much it's gonna be, that's the problem, I guess.
Yeah, and then the hard part is, not saying they wouldn't do a good job of responding timely, but if we're in control of the right of way, you know, then we're controlling it the way we want to, and we're not relying on someone else, if that makes sense. So you kind of keep the control within our department. So that'd be another factor of farming it out, we lose some of that. So I don't know, there are probably more things that I'm not thinking about either, that I'll need to talk to Tim and kind of go over some points.
Very good.
So.
Gordon, where are you?
Well, sounds to me here, he's got an $87,000 budget for this.
Got a $3,500 budget.
And where's the $10,000
That's
come
his
from?
road clearing brush, they clean brush and
Okay.
stuff out of the ditches.
So you got $10,000 to spray weeds with. Is that it?
No.
No, I thought I heard 87,000.
That's the total budget for road clearing, but it's not just weeds, it's brush cut, there's brush cutting, there's other claims that go toward
But the
that.
way I get it, you've got 87,000, but you don't know how much you spent spraying.
We keep track of it, I'd have to go look, but I don't know the exact dollar amount of what we're spending on spraying.
I understand the Tordon chemical cost to treat stumps when you're cutting brush, but that's a whole different deal than spraying weeds in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
But out of the 87,000, we don't know where that went.
No, I mean.
You don't, he does.
Yes, I'd have to just go look at all of our codes and go look at,
Okay.
I guess I don't keep that dialed in, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head.
That's gonna make a difference on how much you treat stumps with, and how much, if you're gonna hire an outside contractor like H&R or whatever to spray the weeds, it would give us a little bit of an idea where the dollars or what's available.
It can, but like I was starting to say there, if we're doing the work, we are having control of what's happening in the right of way, right?
Yep.
And I think I'd prefer to keep maintenance in our control if possible. We don't really farm out a lot of maintenance work. And the things we farm it out are like big paving jobs and
Well,
big
but
bridge replacements that we
getting back
can't.
to Jim's question, if you did hire a private contractor, that takes the liability off the county, don't it?
No.
It's still our right of way. Still our easement, you know? No matter what, you know, it'd be like, well, I'm just gonna try to think of an example, but I don't wanna say the wrong thing. I guess like, I think maybe Mark said it, even if you had a contractor go and they spray somebody else's crops or tree, you're probably, the county's still gonna face a claim, and then they probably have to battle with that contractor, and I don't know how that goes. I don't know enough about the insurance with that.
That would be a question also.
All right, then, any further discussion regarding this issue? We'll look forward to summaries and some ideas brought back in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the discussion. Item 13, note the resignation of a member of the Floyd County Conservation Board. Barbara Pools?
Yes, Coles.
Pam,
Or
Pam Pools, excuse me, has resigned effective, it's May 26th or earlier if we can find a replacement. I believe was the date. May 7th, excuse me, May 7th. So, and what's the gender makeup on that board, Jim?
Art Brown's, Vina Ramon's wife is on there. I can't say her first name right now.
So,
You got it there.
Yeah.
It's mostly men. I think it's 5 total with 2 women on there currently.
Again, Pete Clover, Nancy Campos, Jesse Ferris, Mary Raymond. and
Yeah,
Doug Johnson. So,
Is Johnson on there too?
so if gender balance still applies, you would need Johnson's on, Board of Adjustments, which Johnson would be.
The one that works with the NRCS,
Oh, Doug Johnson.
Doug, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Doug's
that's right.
Yeah, he's on there. You mentioned him? Okay.
he's the fifth one.
Well, so we can start to think about getting a person appointed up for us.
Female then,
Right? Yes.
is it gender balanced?
It is, it is.
Or it
all
needs
board
to be?
appointed ones that are gender balanced, but yeah,
Okay.
unless the legislation does away with it this session.
Yeah, the legislature talks about a lot of stuff they do, and then we'll see what happens. Sometimes there's a little pushback on that. The AA was gonna be going away. Nine agencies were just gonna go away, and somehow we're gonna take care of those kids with disabilities, and that's somehow changed over the weekend. So, but it is a live round, and they aren't seriously talking about it, so, So for now, it's, still requires gender balance, and, I think that's a good process to hold on to. So, we're noting that resignation. And next item is discussion with, County Assessor Brandy Schmidt regarding the county van. Brandy, good morning. This is an issue we talked about a little bit in the past, and we've got a conference board meeting tomorrow. So I'm look forward to talking about it. We've been talking about the county van and some just, maybe you're not even aware of some of the discussions we've had about the possibility of the use of the county van. And we talked just in very general terms about the possibility of using a transport vehicle for autopsies, and that included just a host of things. Bring us up to date on where we're at with the van, and just for kind of a refresher how assessor's department pays for part of this and all that.
So currently, the assessor's fund owns half the van, and the county, through some department I'm not aware of, owns the other half. We split the maintenance. Currently, the insurance is paid all by the county. But that will change for next fiscal year. I'm gonna absorb those costs into my own budget. I do not wish to own the van anymore. So whether you guys want to sell it or just take over ownership of it and I will cease to own it, I am fine with either route. It is not fiscally efficient for me to own it. If you guys want to do other things with it, obviously by all means, if I don't own half of it, I don't care what it's used for. So that's my intention, is to no longer own the van. So you guys can choose if you wish to sell it and either of us own it. And then obviously we would probably need to split that. I don't even care. It costs me more money to own it than it would be to relinquish ownership. So that is my intent, to relinquish ownership. As far as the conference board is concerned, it's not it's not a decision that the conference board is allowed to make for my department. The conference board's duties are very limited to approving my expenses. But to make a note along that line, last year, the conference board approved me to save $15,000 in my budget to purchase a vehicle with an additional $15,000 budgeted this year to replace our Impala. And with the increase in insurance costs because of it being a newer, different vehicle, it actually makes more sense in my budget to not have the van as just a cost to me, and to use those funds to cover the expenses of my own vehicle.
So you just want to get rid of it. You don't want to own it anymore. You don't want to use it because it's more costs you more to fix it up.
For example, so just calculating out the half of your insurance, Last year, half of the year of insurance on the van was $721. My understanding through Gloria and Mark Melrose is they expect our insurance costs overall to increase by 15%. So just throwing 15% on top of 721, that makes my half of the van for the insurance cost $829. If I would choose to pay my employees mileage in place of owning the van and using the van, we would have to drive it 1,500 miles just to make up the insurance, and that's not doing oil changes, wipers, tires, whatever issues otherwise that it has. Just in the money factor of it. We also tend to take total responsibility for the maintenance, like getting the maintenance done on the van, the snow removal of the van, making sure if people have complaints or problems or whatever, it comes to us. We have a staff of 3 people that are very busy, 3 people. And I just don't think it's efficient with our time to, for the little amount of time we actually use the van, to take the time to be responsible for all those things for a van that we hardly use.
What are the statistics? How old is the van? What year is it? How
It's
many?
2016. I do not know how many miles are on it. What, it's a
2016. It's not.
Pacifica, I think.
Is that the red one set on?
It's white.
White one? Does anybody know the approximate value? Did you say that, or?
I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Kind of a, can I?
Yes, certainly. Go ahead.
I totally understand where Brandy's coming from. You know, sometimes it gets used a lot, sometimes it doesn't. Every department uses it, typically uses it at some point. You know, if you were to, everybody that's using it, if you just paid them mileage for their own vehicle. Once in a while, you have somebody who says, I don't want to put the miles on my own vehicle. Other people say, I don't want to use the van because I'm familiar with my own vehicle and that's what I want to drive and don't want to drive the county van. So it's a tough one to know. Do you hang on to the thing or do you get rid of it? I know it's been wonderful for us with elections to be able to haul election equipment in the van. In the past, it was, John would throw it in the back of the pickup and if it was raining, you throw a tarp on it. I just dreaded having, you know, $25,000 a haul throughout the county, 3 different loads. With the tarp over the back of a van.
So I did look at the calendar. It does seem like it was used by the treasurer, the auditor, the recorder, public health, and IT, in addition to our office. Last year, we used it 21 days, and the rest of the county offices used it 43. I know 5 or 6 of those days I used it when our own car sat because I felt like I own it. It doesn't get driven enough. We have problems with it because sometimes it lacks being driven. And so, again, like Gloria said, I would assume to the other departments, it's maybe more financially pleasing to their departments to just put some gas in the van. But I'm paid for the gas I use. I'm paid for half the insurance. I'm paid for half the. It's just for 21 days, which I could say 15 of them were ones that we were maybe using our car at the same time. Like Gloria said, we can use our own vehicles. I went, because the van and the car were being used last week and we have work that needs to be done outside the office, I use my personal vehicle anyway. And like Gloria said, I know most of the departments would prefer to drive their own vehicles. We don't typically feel that way. If we're going to a conference or something, I just drive a county vehicle, but it is probably because we drive these county vehicles more than anyone else. Like I said, I understand other departments have weighed in, Gloria itself, about that it's a value to their departments, and I'm not taking that away. I believe it probably is. But for my department personally, our budget is not millions of dollars, so a couple $1,000s here and there actually makes a big difference in our budget and different things that we can do. And I have some other expenses that I feel are more necessary to my department, so.
When you're looking at those numbers, even you said total, you're 20-some and 40-some otherwise, where the vehicle be driven 65 times or whatever. Just
Yeah, it seemed to me that most of them were taken to a conference, in Des Moines, I guess Des Moines or Ames is what most were used for. Bernie, I think, uses it locally a little bit more.
Chair, what would be the most reasonable way to dispose of that? Doesn't sound like we want it or need it.
well.
I would say that to first consider that if, I know that Gloria talked to me about what Mark had brought up about using it to like transport bodies for autopsy. To me, that seemed like a really valuable way to use the van that doesn't get used a whole lot. I don't know how other people felt about it. We kind of discussed if they're hauling, autopsy bodies in the back, how you felt about using it. And I'm like, well, we only sit in the front driver's seat anyway, so the body's not sitting there. I wouldn't necessarily probably care personally. But to me, it seemed like a really good use of it that saved a lot of money in other capacities. Like I said, I don't know I would say if you guys chose to get rid of your half, I don't know what the best way to get rid of it was. I guess if you guys chose, you didn't want to keep it all for yourselves.
Go off in lots of different directions here with, I've talked to you about, new election equipment in the budget, and, the new election equipment has collapsible boxes. So that reduces the space we need to haul whenever the new equipment comes through. I don't know which way to go. I'm intrigued by the whole medical examiner side of things with the conversation we had with Mark Bethel, that why don't you just buy your own van, get a couple of, so we can hold a couple of cots and use it for transports. And I personally like to take the van rather than putting the miles on my own vehicle. And I wouldn't mind it wouldn't bother me to drive the van. There's been a contact there with a lot of it. Might be kind of freakish for some people. But at the whole medical examiner side, if there's an average of 27, 26, whatever the number is of bodies that are transported in a year, and what we pay for those transports, the van might justify itself for doing something like that. And not sell it.
Just remind us, what do we pay for those?
For the
Transports for doctors.
AMR, if you have a $1,000 contract with Hauser Weiser Funeral Home, but they're oftentimes not available, and so then the backups are AMR and North Springs volunteer ambulance, and that's about a $1,500 bill per transport. Now you're still going to have the medical examiner investigators are doing the transports, you're still going to have their time, you're still going to have vehicle upkeep and fuel and all that, but I don't know how that would all weigh out. And the cost for AMR go up 3% every year in their contract.
So for today's discussion, Brenda, you just willing to just give it up and not have any expense to it? That's what you're seeking?
That's really what I'm seeking.
Okay.
Would your people sign up to use the van?
No. We discussed that at length, that, I had a district meeting last week, talked to other assessors' offices, how they handle their vehicles, and I really think with some pre-planning, we can use just our one vehicle. And then if it really, became an issue, I would drive my personal vehicle. I would do that before I ask my staff to drive their personal vehicle.
All right.
Yes, do all these vehicles have to be aligned with the department? Is that how they work? Or can you just put it in the,
This one, I mean, other than Randy's 50% side is her fund, the rest is the general fund, which
Okay.
everybody is just under the,
so if she walked away from it, it could go into the general fund?
it is, it would increase your Department 51 line item for vehicle expenses to, well, we're not charging her for the insurance. We're 100% of the insurance is paid out of your Department 51. So she's just had the upkeep of the vehicle to pay. We haven't put all those charges, 50% of those charges. So the county side pays more than the assessor side does in the long run, but they do have the time to call to get the oil changed, to make sure, check with us in time to get the oil changed. And
So we've got, I think you told me 27 trips to Ankeny
that's that
average. And $1,000 to $1,500 we're paying, and it wouldn't all be profit, so it takes, do the math. So, even if it's 50% profit, you're 13 grand, and you still got the van afterwards to do it next year.
Yeah, I
Could
think
be something
it's-
worth looking into.
Yeah,
One of these rare deals where we might come out on the plus side or something.
a slight money, small money tree in an unfortunate way.
So doctor, on that side of it, Dr. Schwartz supposed to be back this week. And we're planning on getting together to talk about, or MEIs and him are planning on getting together to talk about some things. And it's might be something that can put into that conversation.
Ready. There.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with that a little bit. Gloria and I had this conversation. It was kind of like still, let's like kind of wait this out another year and see, until I got the insurance costs. Like Gloria said, in the past, I haven't been paying any insurance on my vehicles. So starting July 1st, I'm going to start paying for the insurance on the Impala, and then whenever that becomes a new vehicle. We've also transitioned, my unemployment was never coming out, so starting, I think, the year before last, we started doing that, and now, workers' compensation, which doesn't amount to a lot, but that will also be done. So we are trying to transfer some of these expenses that have always been paid out of the general fund back to my office. And like I said, as we do that, this just doesn't seem fiscally efficient for us. But in Gloria's conversation with using it for the medical examiner, I mean, I think that was really the tipping point, that it would be foolish for me to maintain ownership of half of the van when it's not being utilized, when you guys can utilize it in such a better capacity in a place that's really costing a lot of money. So I guess my thought would be we could commence this starting immediately, or we could commence it starting at the beginning of the fiscal year. I don't, again, have a preference. Most of our field work will be done in the next couple weeks, and then our car will sit as well, so.
All right, any more to talk about?
I would say maybe it's just cleanest just to do a fiscal year.
Okay.
For all of that, unemployment.
That's what we're already doing, so it should be work comp, but that's just not. I guess my concern with that there is, what if the van blows up between now and then? I certainly hope not.
Would the van require any modifications to haul the body to Ankeny and back? Do they put a coffin in there, or what do they do?
All the seats pull down. It's got like those stow and go seats, so that part of it.
Yeah, so it's just my understanding is just something that you can clip it's not a,
Ernie,
yeah, a gurney in there. Somehow to be able to fasten a gurney in there with a body and body bag on top of it. What it takes on Port of Mark Bethel.
sometimes it's a
It says
board, I
record.
think, instead of a gurney even.
Yeah, he said it would be nothing to accommodate, and they're seeing that happen as well. And since we have the medical examiner 100% under us now, and we've got, I don't know, at least 2 medical examiner investigators who would be interested in doing transports, just gotta figure out the pay side of it as well. That's kind of got off topic here.
I'm just curious, all right? When I was in go to school in Nyack, I lived in a upstairs apartment of a funeral home. And our rent was paid by picking up bodies. We were on call 24 hours a day. We didn't use the van. They had a hearse, of course, for the different arrangement. I was just curious. It doesn't require anything more power, I guess.
I've heard that they've been hauled in back to ways, and like the sheriff said something about their SUVs. I've heard that they've been hauled in the back of an SUV.
I guess to that point, if that's something you guys decided to do before the first of the fiscal year, again, maybe it makes sense to take it over sooner because, again, it's saving you a lot more money if you start using it in that capacity, so.
That's just an unknown. That whole medical thing is just like the infant stage of any conversations with Dr. Schroeder.
All right, Jason, you're recognized.
I just wanted to say that I'd be very surprised if legally a body can be transported outside of an ambulance or a hearse.
Oh, that's the state medical examiner's office that's telling us.
Yeah, I was in the conversation with Gloria that he told us that. He says, you should do something, consider doing it yourself. And it wasn't, nothing was mentioned about a hearse or ambulance.
No, he said to use by a van.
I do know, without mentioning names, I know for a fact they haul them away from the nursing homes in whatever vehicle they bring. Actually help load. And it wasn't really secured like you think it should be, but that's what they did. Ain't saying it's right, wrong, or legal, but I know it happens, so.
Okay.
I would say from Mark.
wanted to.
Yeah, Mark said.
Mark, it's on the,
Yeah.
Mark.
First, I can use that guy has to say. Just write that down.
All right, we'll determine the van's future here shortly and might be headed that way. And
I will turn our set of keys over to Gloria at the auditor's office, and then she can, whoever the county decides is in charge of the whole thing, then you guys can have any intent to use it, so I'll just hand you the keys and you guys can go from there.
So you're wanting to do this all now? Or what do you-
we're just talking about it right now. We don't have any action item on here to do anything. So that can happen, but I mean, it's just a general discussion. It's still a couple of, this whole discussion about the van's use for the autopsy services is kind of a work in progress. But we hear what you're saying. You're not gonna use it, so, you're not gonna charge us anything for your half. I don't know who's got the title, so.
I do not have possession of the title.
I think it's an envelope. It's just made out to Floyd Co.
Right. Okay, good night. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Yes, will you all three plan to be there
Mhm.
in person? Okay. I have to start making phone calls today, so thank you.
All right, next item, the budget reviews for fiscal year 25. Auditor Carr, you handed us a whole lot of information here.
Yeah, so what I've got for you today. So this is where I mentioned that I put together the columns for you for 0%, 3%, and anything over 3%. And I've got some notes on some of this, so like your on Board of Supervisors, I've just identified on yours, just the comp board recommended 3.5%. But if you go down a little farther, like to mine, where I've got the line item where it says $2 increase, that is the $4,085. This is for my two clerks, so you see 4,085 down lower as well. The difference from 0% to giving them $2 an hour increase is $4,085 in wages. And then I've also got the line items for FICA and members over there also. And then I'm requesting for the precinct election officials, that they go from $10 to $12 an hour for your consideration of that. Then does have to be motioned by the board of supervisors to do those changes. My 6 month, the one that's the 31,065, that says include 6 months performance increase, so I would anticipate they'd get that 3%, so I didn't do any different adjustment for that line item, for the new person that would get the increase.
That's the part-time?
That's the part-time person, yeah. That gets them from $20 to $20.60 an hour after a successful performance review.
And all the PEOs, that's the
Yeah.
voting.
Yes, so that would be, that's a line item for the general election. What my estimated cost would be for an increase of $2 an hour
Okay.
for PEOs there.
And so the budget, the 4606, is that for like one election? Or was that number?
That one is, because that one is just general election code. But there's another one on the next page that I've got a difference of $800 for a special election. So just the differences are the local election versus the general election.
So, okay, so is the, so a local election is like the, emergency levy?
That, yeah, so that one,
levy.
I've got to figure out what the costs of that are going to be yet. But this is, if a city or school would have a vacancy that they needed to fill by special election. That's a number. We never know what that, if we're gonna have that or not. I do need to try to pull together some numbers, but from what Gordy said today, I've never said $20,000 for a general election or special election. I've been pretty constant with $10,000, not $20,000.
So will you be able to kind of, what would you ask for, the last 3 special elections you want an accounting for or something? Will you be able to provide some information regarding that? You know, there's different types of elections here.
Yeah.
And so I think what he's asking for really, what's the cost of the
Right.
next?
But it's apples and
Yeah, right.
oranges. What he's asking for is apples and oranges.
Okay.
Because the school elections are not the entire population. And so the cost of that school election is different than the cost of a
Right.
general election that's countywide. The closest one I could come to is when there was a special election. I could do special elections like when we did the bond referendum and
Yep.
for the project. Been a few years ago, costs have gone up, but I could put a cost factor into that. Or when we went from 3 to 5 supervisors, or from, not 3 to 5, supervisors by district. That was a special election that was countywide, that those costs can be looked at for that election.
And how about the emergency medical service levy election? Was that one
That was
special?
part of the normal election.
Right, that was part of the general election,
So you can't
Yep.
parse that out.
Right.
So what he's asking for is I think is to, what is the cost of a countywide
Yeah.
special?
Yeah, but there's, what he's asking for, again, is he has apples and oranges, so. But
Well, can you provide him with some cost of a,
I'll provide you guys with costs,
okay, that's all.
but it's just a guess. Of cost. And I
So
can go by
essentially,
those
what's
ones
the
that
cost
were
of
like
the
that.
emergency medical service levy load? Estimate. Okay. And so that would increase if we increase the PEOs $10 to $12.
Well, that's, I mean, if you're putting that on the backs of your coworkers, yes, if that makes the difference,
Okay.
yeah. If you don't give them an increase because of a special election, that's unfortunate.
All right, good.
Okay. And I've got also on that second page, I've got the cost of the equipment, that $80,000 number. And I talked to you last week about my thoughts were that I would put that in next year's budget. And then it would be in the budget for after the new auditor gets elected, that they could research equipment and figure out what they wanted for equipment. I have visited with my staff and with the company about that. So one thought is a new auditor has a lot already on their plate, and then to put on there, by the way, now you try to figure out what you want to do with election equipment. Might be something to rethink, that maybe we don't want to put that all on the next auditor, that get the equipment ahead of that next auditor coming. The company says that they could get equipment to us before the primary election, and we'd have it for primary. I just don't want to get new equipment before the November election. I want to be able to have used it, because the November election is such a large election. If we could, so kind of thinking this over about maybe we do try to get it now. I've got a note on there that they have a 3-year option. So their option is that the cost of the election can be split over 3 years. So you know, you have $27,000, from, you know, $27,000 each year that you would pay for that election equipment over 3 years. So he said, you know, you could have it by this election. Our equipment is over 8 years old now, and that's usually what you're gonna start seeing issues, and I don't want any issues in the November election or any election for that matter. But I told him, I said, well, I don't think I would have any money in my budget to cover that 1/3 of the price in this fiscal year without doing a budget amendment. And asked him, I said, you know, I do budget $5,000 every year just for, in case I have to replace a piece of equipment. I've got a $5,000 capital expenditure in my budget every year. And so I potentially would have that. And I said, maybe I could squeeze something else out. Maybe I said, if I could give you somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 this fiscal year, would that be an option? And they said they would work with us with that if we wanted to get that equipment ahead of this primary election. They would work with us on that payment plan for the 3 years. So I am visiting with my staff. Of course, I've got one person in my office who is running for auditor, and that would be one, you know, her personally, if should she get in, she said, that's really just one more thing I wouldn't want to have to worry about is new equipment to figure out what it's all about. Because that's not been in her scope of work that she does. So I respect that, and we watched videos Wednesday morning during our Wednesday morning meeting. We watched videos on the equipment, and there's a lot of similarities. But the equipment does have some nice features with larger screens for the ADA accessibility. It does have those collapsible boxes instead of the big boxes that we are using that don't collapse today. And so I'm just saying it, this is just a note to you that I've got the 80,000 in the fiscal year 25 budget, but that could be split over 3 years, starting fiscal year 25, or a portion of that paid no interest starting this year, if it seems reasonable to get the equipment ahead of the primary election. So that 80,000 is a number that could be reduced to 1/3 of the cost over a 3-year period with 0% interest.
That's a $27,000 figure, right?
Well, it's an 80,000 in here,
Yeah.
but a third of it.
So just to review, you currently have equipment, currently have 2 backups,
Correct.
that there's nothing wrong with.
Well, I can tell you every election, this last election, I made 2 trips one to Rockford and one to one of the precincts in Trout City with election equipment issues.
Okay, so there's currently equipment, I'm just, just trying to look over the whole thing. Certainly we'll consider it. $80,000 somehow gets paid sometime. I know they will offer you all kinds of options to get it in there, but it's still in some budget. So, you know, as with all of these increases, you know, this board is gonna wanna see how much money we have.
Yep.
Before we make these
And
decisions.
you will get to that at the end of this, there's numbers at the end of this. But I wanted to just show you what some of these costs primarily is, not the election side of stuff, but the costs that are dealing with wages that have come to.
I'm glad you did.
So like my office, and so forth. Treasurer's office, there was nothing, that was all just the 3% in the comp board wages for that one. Same with the attorney's office. When you get down to the sheriff's department, I should have numbered these pages for you, but the 05 department is the sheriff's. And, you'll get to a number there with, 6,157 right here for sheriff.
Right.
Got that one, all there? So that is the increase, he asked $1 per hour for jailers, that's the 6,157 number. He asked for $1 an hour increase for the secretaries, that's lower farther down there on the page with the 3,900. And, then, I've also got the FICA and IFRS on a subsequent page there for the additional cost of the $1 for those people on there. Then, when Amy provided her budget, she provided with the higher increase instead of the 3%. So I've adjusted that on the recorder's section, the 07 department, on the impact of those dollars that she's talking about.
Okay, just back to talk if you can. This, so we're talking about all those increases and the additional increases that the sheriff requested. Then that brings, if you add those together, that increases the sheriff's budget from $2,337,000 to $2,465,000.
The 3% puts it at the 2,465.
Okay,
And then you're gonna add additional on there for,
and then the 11,000 is the additional dollar increases too.
yes.
So if it was fully funded at the comp board recommendation plus the plus the 3% plus the $1, then you get over to 2,465. Is that what that one is?
The 2,465 is 3%, not any additional pay.
Okay, so then it's that plus 11.
Yeah, you know, I probably should have done this. That dollar is the total of the wages, I believe. I've got that in there of their total increase, not 3% and then the additional. I should have probably done it with taken off. The 3% is included in that 11,767. So it's probably should have taken off the 3% and then but just the difference. So that's got the 3% in it. So it's gonna be not quite that high over the 2,465 or 2,465 number.
I understand.
Okay, I can work some of that. And, okay, so then the reporter's one is the one that I mentioned. So the 54,732 is a 3% increase for Kim. And the 42,179 is a 3% increase for Jen. But the request is higher than that. So
Where's that noted? Where's the increase, the request? At?
Where's the,
Oh, so the Kim and Jen, those dollars is more than 3%.
what Amy provided to you is more than 3%.
So what's
yes.
that?
3,920 and 3,170.
And what's the percent?
Tim's is 5.55. .9% is Jen's.
Yeah, what was that based off of the extra increase?
I think, you know, the board did away with deputies. And I think this bumps Kim up, to what a deputy, if she had a deputy in the office, would be close to that 75% deputy pay. And, Jim's, I think, is just kind of a low number that probably should be higher than the $21 an hour to get her to 22.66 gives her $22, plus, puts her at $22 plus a 3% increase on top of that.
So the 3% would be in addition to the 2266?
No.
2266?
No.
Okay.
That's putting her at $22 and then 3% on top of $22. And I probably should.
By the way, just for our reference, we are a voting unit tomorrow night. Would you look at this budget for us? And I'm looking at it right now and trying to figure out what the percentage increases are for the deputy assessor and clerk. And
I haven't seen their budgets.
okay, I got it here. And so one looks like 6.6%. And because this is the first one that's gonna get set. I mean, this gets considered tomorrow night. So it'd be nice to know kind of where, you know, we're gonna set more salaries than anybody else who walks into that room tomorrow night. Or we set more salaries than any of the other folks that we're gonna consider there tomorrow. So it'd be kind of nice to know where all this is. Okay, yeah, you can look at it. You must have it, Jen.
I haven't.
We will forward it to you so you can look at that.
Who did that come from, Mark?
That's from Brett.
On the 17th.
Yeah.
Right? Is
Yeah.
that the one?
Friday, the 7th, okay.
Yeah. And it talks a little bit about the vehicle purchases and then the 30,000 and all that, so. Okay. Just kind of comparing these all together, thank you. We'll make sure you get forwarded that issue that.
I thought.
But I mean, Gloria. We'll get that to you.
It's a 24 annual report budget presentation, right?
Yeah. And yeah, you're not on that, are you? We'll forward that to you, Gloria.
Percent increase.
Yeah.
I just saw the agenda on the website. I don't have anything that says what percent.
Right. Okay, all right, back to our number, and do appreciate all this stuff. It's, you know, it was written in those other forms, but it's kind of good to see it in this form here.
Yeah, and if you want to back up to the auditors, the $2 an hour, I'm increasing to go from, that's from 22 to 24. because I don't have that in. And that would be a 9.09% increase. On the very first page.
The one up above,
Yeah, there's two sections there. One's the out of 9,000 service area, and the other one's out of election service area, so it's where you see the 4,085.
Those are, that $2 is 9.
$2 an hour would be going from $22 to $24 an hour. That's 9.09%. Of course, it's a 20% increase for the election.
Eventually, and I know you've gotten this before, you know, we'll see it all on one kind of piece of paper. By department and by staff member and everything. It's close to this right here. It's just, you know, what everybody's asking for on one piece of paper by department. Which is kind of what you got here, but
Yeah,
you've
because
got
you
a lot
won't
of
see it
other
on
stuff.
that one piece of paper, you just gotta pick one. That's what that paper is going to be. Is it a 0%, is it 3%, is it
Okay,
extra? This is actually breaks it out a little better for you.
yes, right.
And then, when you get to Department 10 for courthouse, that's my custodians that I've asked for the $2 for John. That's an 8.7% increase to get from 23 to 25. And then for Cody is a 4.55%.
Okay. John is how much?
From $23 to $25 is an 8.7% increase.
Okay.
And Cody from 20 to 22 is a 4.55%.
Good.
And then just another note that or kind of a comment that I put there when you get to the next page of Department 10 stuff. I just threw a number in there for 150. It's not in any budget number, but it's like we talked about for those south entrance enclosures or over dispatch employees. I put 150 to 200,000, but it's not in any final number or any total numbers that you see there.
Sure.
So marker. And then on the next page is secondary roads, and they're in the 3%, that's in their contract, they're gonna get that no matter what. Those are just the categories that get that 3%. And then there's nothing till, I just have a note there when you get to the Department 22, that Adam is 97.4% conservation and 2.6% weed commissioner. That's just a note for you, so you know how those numbers fit in the budget. And I would presume that Adam's wage would drop the 2.6% weed commissioner goes away. And effective.
That'd be the $1,900,
Yeah.
right? Would come off.
1965, yeah, that would come on. But that would be, if you're making that appointment needs to be made by March 1st, which I looked at the calendar, but gone on to another topic, that you would want to do that appointment by February 26th, would be your last official meeting date to do that appointment for March 1st active. Got about a month to figure out there who's doing what, how to get into it.
Okay, back up to the Board of Health.
What number is that one?
Okay, yeah, so that's 23. So, so Jeff is in there with a 3% for that position. And currently 85% of his position is Board of Health, 10% is zoning, and 5% is 911. And then Jen, the 1609 additional there, well, her position, the new splits are 40% 911, 35% Board of Health, and 25% zoning. And that 1609 puts her at a 12% increase.
What's that bring her wage to?
$22 an hour. Currently 1964, I think.
So, okay. To get to 22, it brings it how many, what percent, 12%?
12%.
Okay.
And so that's got a highlight on there, the 13806 has a highlight on there. The budget that was turned in has 12% in there. That's what Jeff wanted put in there, not the 3%.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Amy's got the extra in there. Just on paper here, I put it on the. Then some of those ones that are, have a highlight there are just, I found some calculations that were off with calculating like the numbers.
What's the, is Jennifer's so the new split is 40, 35, 25.
Correct.
How many hours is that?
My understanding is the number of hours worked would not be reduced. It'd still be a 37.5 hour work week.
Okay. If you took 25 out of it, what would it be?
25%.
You'd be a part-time employee?
29 hours a week would be
Maximum part-time employee. So it's 1/4 of 39, 29?
37.5 is what you said, or not?
37.5, yeah.
Yeah.
Or, well, 29 hours a week. So that's what you're wanting to know that.
I'm just asking if didn't have that 25% in zoning, what would you end up with? How many hours would you be employed?
Oh,
28.125, I think,
yeah, exactly. So
So that'd be a part-time employee under 29.
if I did it right.
Does she get health insurance?
Bernie covers her health
Bernie
insurance.
gets health, she doesn't. Okay, that's all I want to know.
37.5 times 25%.
And then reduce it by that. Then the next page just has, again, that split between conservation and weed commissioner. 3% puts that over.
Did they ask any more than 3% for anybody?
They did not, but they got their huge.
Oh, yeah, they
increase.
didn't do too bad last time.
Yeah, 18, 19%.
Yeah, it was. Right.
That's pretty darn good. And then I think I gave you a new worksheet last week on the library. I did put their 3% in here. So I got that letter after the first meeting that we had with budgets, and they'd asked for a 3% increase. So I just made a note of that in there.
All right.
I need to talk with, I just need to confirm with Jacob what he's putting for hours. Maybe he just puts a buffer of hours in there for Karen's wage. I just need to follow up with him on that one, or if he was asking, I don't think he's asking for higher pay. I think it's just the 3%, but that 2025 hours or higher pay is just my question to him, how he put the numbers in the budget.
That's the disposal of my fairground.
Yes. I've got, foster grandparents. Oh, I'm gonna, the first highlight you see on the next page, the 7,614.
Yep.
I forwarded you I think I forwarded you the request from North Springs Volunteer Ambulance was 6,000 something, where it had been 4,000.
Which department?
The 51 on the top of the page right here, there's a dark spot. 51 department, there's several pages of 51.
They went from $4,600 to $7,600, right?
Correct. Well, for the two ambulances, Green Volunteer Ambulance and North Springs Volunteer Ambulance. 6,264 is the letter we got for North Springs Volunteer Ambulance. And then I haven't received anything from Green, so I just put in 1,350. For them, they have $75 per call, so we're now, you know, they might have more or less calls.
They have to divide theirs between Butler and Floyd County, obviously, right?
Yeah, they bill us for the calls. So that number is increased from what you had before. Jim, I think last meeting you were gonna follow up with foster grandparents.
I haven't had a chance to talk to them yet.
And then I did put in the budget the 3,500 that would cover the museum and Healthy Harvest, Healthy Harvest at 1,500 and museum was 2,000. What their request was. And I have an agency worksheet one too that I'll get to. And the 10,000 for the fair is, I think I had that in, I don't remember, I maybe didn't have that in the previous budget, but it's in there now.
47-1 was.
That is what, $10. And that's fiscal year 25 is the last year of the 3-year contract with them.
$10.
Yes. There's, I think it's 18,500 is paid out of TIF dollars. So the total contract is 65,100. 65,600.
10,000 for the fair doesn't include the sanitary disposal site that we rent, right?
No, that's on Department 40 for sanitary.
Okay.
12,000. Yeah. This is a line item that's A24H.
Mhm.
And then flip another to Department 52. Bernie has requested $72,000 or $70,000, which is 11.85% increase.
Where's he at?
For 52.
IT
What
and
percent?
data processing.
52?
52.
Or not, okay.
There wasn't anything on those previous pages.
See, they just got a new IT director in Mitchell.
I should,
Bernie brought that up too.
yes, yeah, and he's making 72,000, and he said, starting out at 72. Then Bernie just got with me. I don't know if he happened to say anything today when he was working on stuff. There may be a need to increase that line item for cybersecurity, something to do with, but I don't, he's working on numbers. So that 140,000 may jump up. 140,000 covers a lot of things. It covers solutions contracts, it covers IBM contracts, it covers several things.
Does that include the DHS building on South Main too?
We don't pay anything on that. Well, through Department 25, no. Different department. And then the bottom of that page, that Mark Bell was going to email Bernie the application for cybersecurity insurance also. We looked at that a couple of years ago, it was like $25,000, which would be a Department 51 line item. Insurance on that one. And I don't, In order, there was something with, the Bernie talked to me, something about, something that we have to go to two-factor authenticity, and there's software for that, and that's what this one, my comment here is about, that we have to increase that because of the two-factor
Increase from 140.
from the 140. But again, that 140 has lots of, like I say, it's the solutions contracts, IBM contracts, several services in that one, and other software that he's looking into. Then the bottom of that page, there again, that's the zoning side of Department 53. Shows those same splits in there as above Department 23.
The sanitary has historically, have they always reported to the Board of Health?
And the Department 23, yes,
Okay.
that's by Iowa code. There's an environmental health. I think if it's in, chapter 335. Chapter 137. It's about environmental health and public health.
Okay.
That's Board of Health versus. Okay, so then.
So, kind of related to that, we had tentatively put on the agenda a discussion with the Board of Health regarding these two vacancies. And that didn't happen because Gail doesn't want to be part of that discussion.
For
So she
environmental
wants to
health.
split off, or?
No, for environmental health, because under Board of Health, there's public health is Gail, and there's environmental health, it's Jeff. And Gail doesn't want to be swooped in the middle of the environmental health.
So Gail's perspective is she just takes the minutes, essentially, because you get two people reporting to the Board of Health. So that's who I thought we'd have come over to talk about this vacancy. So
There's one vacancy, right? Or did you
Yeah,
say
yeah.
two? Yeah, I thought I heard you say two, but
Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
So, but then we have this side, planning and zoning 911, they have that side. So the thought was to kind of get the parties together to talk about that. But it's not gonna be Gail we talk to, it's gonna be Dr. Kapler, because she's the chair of the Board of Health, so
Okay.
trying to arrange for that, because they're gonna have to hire somebody. So that's what the.
So, well, whoever they hire automatically fill in for planning and zoning and 911.
No, we hire for planning and zoning, they don't have anything to do with that.
So how did it end up, all three of them under Jeff?
Just because Jeff was the guy that kind of fit that at the time.
I think it evolved into that with
Yeah,
the
that's the way
current staff.
kind of
That's
stuff
like, yeah.
works.
Actually, when Jeff was hired, the interview committee was made up of a representative, maybe two from Board of Health and a representative from the county, and I believe there might have been a representative from 911. I mean, that I can't remember for sure, but it was a consent between the three of them that how the position would work collaboratively with the different departments.
And then that may or may not, that's pretty unique. To think that you could hire someone that would fill just the two. 911 is not much, 5%. All it is put outside, so that's not a big deal, but those two components, that's why we wanted to have a discussion. And when we ran into that, that's what happened. So there wasn't time to get a hold of Dr. Kapler, so still working on that, just trying to bring you up to date.
So is there a chance it could be two different employees going forward?
Certainly. Yeah, it's like, it could be anything. You could have an existing employee that takes on another role. I mean, it's kind of wide open. And that's kind of, you're trying to figure out something that's good for the county. So it's pretty much, but it's unique because you know, they're over here, they decide this one. We're over here, we're deciding this one.
It might be nice if there was another one that would
Sure.
roll into that, but
Sure.
I don't know what the chances are.
Yeah. So that's why hopefully next meeting, we'll get Dr. Kapler to talk about that. We got to get together to start the process of figuring it out. That's
Good to get started
yeah.
earlier to do.
Right.
Um,
But I was surprised we didn't, it wasn't Gail, but that's the way it was, so. We'll keep up to it. Be here soon.
And actually then the next department, Department 54, that was a collaborative effort between the county and the Emergency Management Commission to have Jason, well, when Jason was fine, it'd be 10% for county safety, risk management stuff, and 90% for Emergency Management Commission. I didn't put a note to that on there, that's why that's only $5,000, but one of those to do that. Well, okay. Here's a sticker shock one with communications. So, and John said he would like the dispatchers to be paid $30 an hour. And so the dispatchers currently are $24.30 and $24.32 an hour. And so that ends up putting them at $30 an hour. I just mushed them together, a 23.46% increase. And so the increase from a 0% budget for that wage increases $95,555 in wages. Plus then there's FICA, NIFRS, and overtime as well on that. So then I'm thinking, well, John really didn't say anything about himself. So if you take his salary and you divide it by 2,080 hours, he was $29.55 an hour. Well, you surely couldn't have those dispatchers making more than him. So I pulled in two different options there. One is taking his difference currently at $29.55 an hour minus their $24.30 an hour, and that's 5 1/4. So then $10,912 that you have in there is taking the $30 an hour and then adding 5 1/4 to John's salary. So that puts him around that $72,384 number. If you give him the same 23.46% increase, it bumps him to $75,893. But again, the numbers you see are the option one with him being paid 5 1/4 more than dispatchers. But that's the sticker shock one. So I think that might be something you look at those comparables that he gave you. There's that $30 is probably the higher end of those numbers. So
Is she short a dispatcher now again? I think he is.
no, he's not short of dispatcher now. He said he almost lost one. He had one that came third in line for a position at Clear Lake. And the reason the person is seeking other employment is because of 24.30 and that would make it 24.32 an hour. Yeah, that's a chunk of change there. So I don't have anything in there. I know, Jim, you said something about could you use a part-time person? I didn't put anything in for a part-time person. So I don't know.
He talked about it and he depends which date, he knows he's gonna be replacing soon, and what he said, it'd be nice to have that part-timer trained and step in.
Yeah.
It's a hard decision for him.
And maybe there's some mesh there with not $30 an hour, maybe there's a mesh with or that $6 increase going towards the part-time person. I don't know that it changed the numbers much, but so these are things that I'm looking for you guys for direction on, I guess.
So his budget is gonna increase by $135,000 with these numbers.
Yeah.
Almost 136.
If you do that $30 an hour and then bump it back to that 35. That's the worst you've got to deal with. So then I took all those numbers and just crunched numbers with what the dollars are with 0% pay increase, which is the operating costs, basically. The general fund is $6,621,366. The 3% bumps it up another 150,000. Supplemental, you can look at those numbers there. I've got all those numbers, what those bump up to. And then the difference from 0% to the additional cost of wages is the $200,000 number to get the increases that those several departments have asked for more than just the 3%. And then I just thought I would throw in what the max is we can collect in dollars for general fund. With our new levy rate, we're not going to be able to do the 350. We're going to be at that lower 3.39806 because we've had more than 3% growth.
Where's that number show?
Right.
Okay, 3.39806, got it.
Yeah. So we'll be using all that max because that's the only way we can levy on supplemental. So we will hit that for sure.
What's that show?
What's that?
So then we will be able to levy what?
Well, again, the 3.39 is that max that you'll be able to levy on general before you can use supplemental.
Okay. Yielding how much?
For dollars?
Yeah.
$3,519,915 with no increase.
Right.
And rural services, I need to tidy up some of the credits. I don't have the credits in on my revenues yet. So I will have that number for you with a better revenue number, the taxes and the credits. And then Mark, you're familiar, but you two might not remember, but then we'll have those fund balance worksheets that we can give some options for how much carryovers, supplemental and rural services available. But then I thought I'd just throw in here also the last few years of what we've budgeted and what we've ended up with in funds. So this is again, one of those things that I always look at when the departments come with their budgets. I open up the expenses and I look at the final number on the expenses and the final number on the revenues and look at the differences. This is where I ask department heads, if you can re-estimate things, that makes a difference in where we end up to know what to do for the next year. And so you kind of have that effect of oftentimes underestimated revenues, overestimated expenditures. And so fiscal year 21, we ended up with $4 million where we budgeted $2.3 million. So a huge number in there. But some of that would have been for what we intended to pay on the project out of general fund, but then the project didn't come through. And then we got ARPA dollars, so then we didn't use general fund. And So there's some impacts like that that would affect that number being a larger number than what was planned. Fiscal year 22 budgeted $1.3 million in general fund and ended up with about $4 million in general fund. That probably has some of that effect of the ARPA dollars as well, used for the project rather than out of general fund. Fiscal year 23, 1.9 million is what was our ending fund balance, was projected to be in general fund, and ended up 3.6 million. And currently today, we've got the general fund 1.5 million is what the June 30th, 24 budget was expected to be, and this is just a number as of 12/31/2024, that we have $4.6 million in the fund balance right now. And then you can see the same across there with general supplemental and with rural services. Now, the rural services one, that's the $1 million that you typically don't transfer until June to secondary roads. So that one's, will drop down fast when that transfer goes through. But we, typically the first year of, the September due taxes, some people pay 100% of their taxes, you have a little bit of that, but there's still a lot of tax money to come. Not quite half the taxes, but probably 40-some% of the tax.
Be a couple months so before that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I know the answer to this.
Mark just did a jaw drop over there.
I think I know the answer, but we probably, in my opinion, need to ask each department if there's anywhere they can cut a few dollars from their budget, or a few $100, or a few $1,000. And the one that always jumps out at me is rural services. They have the largest budget of anybody, right, along with departments.
You mean secondary roads and
There's
roads?
some secondary roads, yes. And when I mentioned to Jacob last year about doing some cutting, he just didn't want to listen to it, didn't want any part of it. It seemed like that would be a place where there could be some cuts made and not affect service.
It's tough, they might have 2 projects planned one year and 3 projects planned another year, that they want that buffer in there to cover things. But I think he's probably about cut as much as he probably can cut, because he had $900 in 3 trucks of equipment, and he cut that down to 1.
What is, when you speak of not cutting services, there might be one group of people over here that sees your comment as rural services being cut services to them, and another group of people over here say that won't hurt us any cut them. So I think it does cut service no matter what dollar you pull the pot out of. Somebody's got to. It's not like it wasn't getting used before, in my opinion.
I think it's typical government. There's got to be some waste somewhere. If they could take a look at it and say, maybe you don't need to do that. We can get by without that, and say $10,000 or $100,000 or whatever it may be. Is my simple way of thinking. There's got to be some waste somewhere. There is most places,
An exercise that you might go through is looking at these reports that have been provided and look at what they've spent, and look at the revenue side, what they brought in for revenue, and see if there's a trend you can follow, that it looks like, again, they're overestimating expenses and underestimating revenues, and that brings that all closer together. The re-estimated part is, I did see a lot of re-estimating in the budget numbers that came in. That might be a place that you might see some of those departments could double check some of that re-estimating.
What is the fiscal year 25 estimated budget in the bill.
That's where I have to get those credits in there yet. That, and, you know, property tax rev, well, just, you know, at first brush, if you look at, what you're gonna draw in for general fund, excuse me, this number, the 3,515,000 at
Right.
the max of the general fund levy. And then I do have the revenues, let's see here. So I have.
This 3.39806 is the maximum we can charge. Last year was 3.5.
Right. Now it's that house file 817 changed. And after 5 years, you'll be back at $3.50, but, there's this 5-year transition period.
Yeah, that'll go down next year too, then. It won't be the 339, it'll be something lower.
Not necessarily, it's just gonna depend on what our growth was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We just have some, good growth numbers. So the revenues that's been turned in by the department heads, I'll just use general fund for example. Oh, I guess I did put it on here. You've got, what's been turned in by departments is the $1.7 million. So you'll have your 3.5 million plus your 1.7 million. That gives you 5,220,000. So that, but what it's missing is the credits that we'll get yet from like homestead and some of those type of credits. So that number will, 5 million will be higher. But if you compare it to what you're gonna need to cover expenses, you're gonna compare that number when I get all the revenues in there to what's up here, and your difference is gonna be carryover that you're gonna use to support that.
Okay. So we don't have a good number yet, then, do we?
Well, you've got the 3.5 what the property tax is going to bring in.
Yep.
You got 1.7 that department heads for general fund have said they're gonna bring in for revenue. And then that gives you the 5.2 number. Again, that 5.2, if you subtract that from, well, you're getting just that quick brush without the credits, that type of dollars that you're gonna get back in yet, you're $1.5 million.
So you're subtracting that 5 million from where?
Well, pick one. If you want 0%
6.6.
increase, or
Yep.
you want 3% increase,
Okay.
just without credits and stuff, you're looking at 1.5.
You end up with what's the rest of that?
What
Where
I'm-
did that get you?
What I'm missing?
No, where is it? So you got that part, and then where does that go? Just the left part of it is all.
Yep, that means currently your general fund balance is $4.6 million. That difference between those two is what you're gonna use in carryover.
Okay, so where did that general fund balance show up here?
Any fund balance is this little added on section here.
Okay, so fiscal year budget is,
Or maybe a better number. So if you take fiscal year 23, you've got a $3.5 million.
yep,
$3.6 million, excuse me. And after I get all the revenues done with the credits and stuff, I mean, without the credits, you're looking, if you take that, well, the 6.6 million or the 6.7 million and subtract 5,200,000, that difference is what you're gonna, as it is, you're gonna absorb out of carryover balance. So that's again why I put the budgeted numbers here, because we always end up so far off with budgeted versus actual. For, you know, various reasons again. And expenses we don't have in here yet are health insurance. Don't know what the change in our health insurance is going to be yet. That meeting is, that meeting is in February 8th and 9th is that meeting down in Des Moines. And, so February 12th, we'll be looking at health insurance numbers. I'm not sure when Denise will come up here to present to you. Looking at those, and I expect to have an increase. I think, like Brandy was gonna put a 10% increase in her budget for the assessors conference board meeting, but that's the high side, it shouldn't be 10%. Don't know what that number's gonna be yet.
It's 6.6.
What's that?
She has 6.6 in there for Chris, I think.
Oh, did she put 6.6? Okay, I wouldn't be touched that much. 6.6 should cover.
So when do we get that more complete number?
Well, next week I can have the credits and put the property taxes in there. Then you just need to tell me when we're looking at those numbers, where you want to go with all these wages.
Because we base numbers not on the ending fund balance, we base it on the projected ending fund balance.
Right.
I get the point between what the number ends up being and what we're budgeting, but those 25% ending fund balance are based on what's in the budget, not what actually is.
I forgot to mention to your gray areas here on yours. I did bump those up because I got those, the publications were higher from the tax. So some of these things you see that are darker are things through the budget process that changed from the worksheets I have.
So another number we need to know, how much more are we going to spend in this budget over the last year?
Current budget over the last year?
Yep.
Well, if you look at projections, last page here, tell you, for current year compared to last year, you're gonna end up with 4.6, projected now is $4.6 million. Or excuse me, that's not necessarily a good number. Fiscal year 23, you had 5,664,000, which was how much over your past, if you go by what your, let's see, there is something there. So you ended up with $1.75 million more in your general fund budget June 30th last year. If you were expected to have an ending fund budget fiscal year 24, June 30th of 1.5, you're likely gonna end up with expenses and revenues go as everybody planned, you're gonna end up with a $2.2 million ending fund balance for fiscal year 24. But you're just not gonna.
What I was asking was how much more are we going to spend, not the balance. What's the projected increase in expenditures?
Okay.
This current budget year to the one that we're talking about now.
For fiscal year 25?
Yep.
That is, where's a good place? this is what is budgeted to spend. The 6.6 million or 6.7 million.
Fiscal year 25.
Fiscal year 25.
Okay. What do we do in 24?
In 24, your general fund expenditures are, um, let me give you tons of revenues here. You anticipated revenues in your general fund to be $5,413,315.
That's expenditures other than.
That was your revenues. You want to know your fund balance, you need to know
No, I'm not talking about,
that you're asking for fund
no,
balance.
no, I'm just talking about expenditures from fiscal year 24 to 25. How much are we proposing to spend more in dollars?
So, your expenditures for general fund were $6,604,779 for this year.
Okay, 6 million,
604,779.
okay,
And 0% in wage increases for your expenditures is your 6.621 million.
right. Okay, how about the general supplemental fund?
Supplemental was budgeted at 1.981 million. And at 0%, you're not looking at an increase. At 3% supplemental, you're looking at 19 million.
And how about
19,000.
how about the rural basic service fund expenditure in 24?
Real basic is, expenditures are 836,678. Well, oh wait, sorry, you gotta put a transfer in there.
Yep.
Just the transfer. Actually, on your general, there'd have been 50,000 less with that one because there's a transfer out of there for conservation. So your general would have been, should be the 5,100,000, excuse me, 5,564,000.
5 million,
5,564,779.
$5 million. Sorry, say it again, please. With the 50 L.
With 50,000, 1,564,779.
5,900,000.
5,500,000.
Okay,
64,779.
64,779.
54,779, sorry, 54.
54.
That's what you got budgeted.
779. Okay. And general supplemental,
1,981,907.
907.
Yeah, 1,981,907. Rural services is 1,000,000.
$2,271,646. 741,646.
741. 636.
46.
646. All the other funds.
Those aren't tax dollars. Those are their funds. So that's like, that's got lots of, there's several line items we'd have to add up because that's got like your, K9, commissary,
Yeah,
forfeiture funds, all of those.
yeah, it's $9 million.
Yeah, but it's got,
It's a lot, it's a lot.
yeah, it's just not driven by property tax revenues. It's not funded through property tax dollars. And
Okay.
that would be comparing to another year. That's got ARPA dollars.
Okay.
It's got opioids.
So let's add the top three numbers in the budget zero column and get a total and compare that with what we budgeted fiscal year 25.
Okay, you'll have to put that in a spreadsheet or something, Mark. You'll have to call those numbers out. I mean,
Okay, you bet.
You can
It's
tell me.
6,621,366. This is fiscal year 25. 1,962,648.
What numbers are you giving me again?
I'm talking now the fiscal year 25, 0% budget increase numbers.
I got those numbers. I don't have the numbers that
Okay,
you gave
all right,
for
gotcha.
fiscal year 24, because I
Okay.
was looking at the
Well, we'll
budget.
start again. 5,554,779. 5,554,779. General supplemental, 1,981,907. And real basic, 2,741,646.
Give me your general fund number again.
5,554,779. We increased general fund spending by $1 million, 66,587. In the proposed budget.
So we're on supplemental and.
Right.
Real services by 12,000.
Yeah.
That's the 0%.
So the grand total of those three is.
Of the change?
Both, the total and, well, we'll be able to figure out the change.
Change is 734,507.
A positive 734,507 in the three. 734,507.
734,507.
Okay, so let's get a new column started with what the fiscal year 24 budget was compared to what we're projecting in 25, and put total dollar amount increases or decreases. There's a little decrease in the real basic service fund, and get some percentages on what those are.
So,
Overall, we're spending 700, in those three funds, we're spending $734,000 more in this current budget than we approved last year.
Yeah.
So you want to know,
yeah, so if you can give me till next week,
Yep.
we'll have those sheets like you held up before, these sheets, and you'll have that by department.
okay,
But we'll get our revenues in there, our credits and all that in there as well.
and what's the levy gonna be?
Well, again, the max on your general.
Yeah.
Yep. And your general produced.
How much will we have to raise the real, basic services fund to increase spending by $300,000?
But on rural, you didn't increase your spending, you reduced your spending by 300,000.
Right, yes, that's correct. Okay, we'll get those numbers. Just wanna, you gotta look at the, how much you increase spending when you're next. So,
So yeah, I suggest you guys take a look at those numbers across from year to year and see where the spikes are coming. And there's reasons for some, maybe you're doing a project one year that you weren't doing another year. It's, there might be outliers that do that type of thing.
what is the timeline for budget decisions?
Yeah, so I put a thing together. So by January 20th is when you're supposed to have your departmental estimates provided. So that's what you got now with the holiday or with the weekend in here. So no later than March 5th, we need to have our tax levy notices or, we're gonna have things set. I've got March 5th as the date that we've got to have where we're at with that. So we can send get the notices, get the information in paper, get everything.
That's levy rate and.
That's the max. It's the max that the notice has to go out with the cities and the schools. The notice has to be out by March 20th, but I'm suggesting that by March 5th, we have our ducks in a row with where we think we're gonna go with our max. We have until March 15th, but that doesn't give me a lot of time to get everything pulled together with the city and the school stuff and send 7,000 notices out.
Yeah.
So March 5th is my target date for you guys to decide on wages, decide on all these things that you have to decide on. Yeah.
That's less than 2 weeks.
What?
Less than 2 weeks.
March
That's
5th.
that's a month.
March 5th.
March
5th.
5th, excuse me.
Yeah.
I started
Okay.
banning.
A little more time.
I did too. I said,
You
what?
get some sleep.
Okay, all
So,
right, good.
Say we're gonna have changes in health insurance and
Sure,
all that type of stuff.
okay.
So from what we've looked at today, do you want me to put something in the budget for a part-time person for dispatch? 29-hour person? And
I don't
Do
want to make
anything
any of these
and just-
decisions. I think any of these wage increases until I see this, what you're gonna give us in the next week.
Okay, that's just, something that was talked about, adding that part-time person.
Yeah.
You don't want me to add that in there?
Oh, I don't want to, big person. I just, it's, to me, it's just, I haven't seen, you know, we started talking about wages first until we see it gets hard to claw that back once you put that out there. And put a number in or say anything about any of these wages. See what.
23% wage increases are probably something that can say something.
But that gets the part of this that gets bizarre, because tomorrow night we're gonna be voting on something. And you see, one gets used against the other.
Yeah.
That's
And
just,
one
that's
nobody's
just
gonna
the
show-
system, the way it is, but,
And nobody's gonna show up.
yeah, it's always, nobody else seems to quite understand, you don't get that credit when we get in there sometimes. It is.
So also in your Department 22, you've got that huge change in, you got 120, let's see, $104,500 transfer to secondary road or to conservation reserve. And you also have that $83,100 line item for the new tractor skid loader thing that he wants.
That's
So
in
that's
here.
kind of that's in your budget. So that's kind of a doubled up thing, because I would just think that you probably would adjust that to, he doesn't get all of his transfers, he's gonna buy an $81,000 piece of equipment.
I thought that's what we were doing. We were gonna take the transfers.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me to take it out. So the transfer is 104,000 in there, but there's also
Oh, okay.
a line item. Well, he had 79 and then he came with his bid and had 83,100. But he did send an email that says the lowest quote he has currently is 83,100 plus 30,806. That one was one was the attachment or something like that. So that's 113,906. So he knows we'll need to move some money around, but he's waiting for some quotes on that. But at some point, there's.
What's the first debt service payment on that figured in here?
Oh, no, but I did bring, I have, let's see.
What payment's that, Mark?
Debt service payment on the tower.
Yeah, I got your worksheets for that somewhere here. But then debt is its own levy, so it's not in those.
Right.
But
it does increase taxes.
yeah. There's one for each.
Okay.
Okay, so, the 590,000 is, the debt for the, the roads project.
That's a tip debt on the windmills.
Correct. Yep. Then the 965, well, then there's interest payments and, the fiscal fees that we pay for Northland Securities and the bank. So total expenses I've got is 650, but that's all covered 100% by tip dollars, which I got a call into Heidi Heidi Cool with Northland Securities that you would have met last fall with the gal that came from Northland Securities on the communications tower project. So those have a call date of June 1st, 2024. You're not paying a lot of interest on those, but it's all, those are at 2%. However, we're sitting on, I've got the estimated fund balance by March of 2024 should be over $2.7 million. So you could technically call all of those bonds except maybe one if you wanted to amend your budget to pay those off. And then I know it's only 2% interest, that's a low interest rate, but why pay the low interest rate for another, I think those bonds go out to 2029 or something, maybe a little farther than that. So I've got to call into Heidi to say, can we pay off, can we call a bunch of those bonds back? And then you're not paying any more interest on it. And then that money, eventually, you know, you're gonna bring those, your tax dollars back up because you're not putting it towards the debt, you're putting it towards all those government entities get that money back. Right? You get what I'm saying there, Mark?
Yep, I do.
Yep, okay. So let me pull those up. So we won't have enough to pay them all off, but we can definitely get them down. Because what's left in principal is after, if we don't do anything for this year. There's $3,070,000 of coupons left, so that's not counting any interest, but just the principal. If you could get that down to, I'm not sure how they can call those bonds, but I think we're only going to need, we could just leave one of those out there. Those bonds range from 590,000 to 640,000 each year. And the debt ends on June 1st of 2029. And I know it's only 2% interest, but 2% interest on a lot of money. That if we can get the interest on so it's $188,700 in interest if you let that all go towards the June 2029 end of the debt. So you save, call all of them, but one, you know, save 1 year of interest. That would get you, it'd save you like $170,000 in interest. So I think that's something you should exercise that call date on those. And save, not have to pay that interest. So then the next item on there is your $965,000. That's got your 2 law enforcement center bonds, and it's got the new payments for the communications tower bond. So that is all new tax, or the communications bond is all new tax to the property owners.
985.
Well, that's the total, that's 995. 575,000 is the payment, principal payments for the law enforcement center, and 390,000 is the principal payment for the tower project. Plus 215,000 in interest on that one, and $61,000 in interest on the.
So what's the debt service levy gonna go up to?
I haven't figured that yet.
Okay, that's gonna go up.
You knew, and you knew that was gonna go up when you did that.
Absolutely.
I remember what did,
Yeah, we knew.
we have those projections that they gave us and what was that levy rate? Do you remember what that levy rate was?
For the 911,
Yeah,
no, I don't.
I don't remember offhand. I've got it out here somewhere.
Just, remind me what we're gonna levy 3.398. We get 3.519 million in the general fund because our total valuation, rural and total increased to how much this year? What did our valuations go up?
That's the sheet I handed out to you a couple of meetings ago.
Yeah. Trying to figure out, we're budgeting here. The sustainability part is, you can have an increase in valuation next year, we don't know, but.
I know Brandy is working. She was gonna try to work up a number for us because of the EMS. Steve Years was looking for, is there any idea of what valuations might be? So see if she can find it. She has, I'm not sure, December, but January 2024 values for when that would go into place if that passes. So your valuations went up 6.49%, but you are only able to capture 3.39% of that growth.
3 point how many?
3.39%. That's why we got the reduction to the $3. Just coincidentally, the numbers are so close. The $3.39806 for that levy rate. The rural increased 5.7%. But we're able to capture 3.63%.
3.6?
3.63%. That's what put us at the $3.87, 3.87255 on the rural service. However, I don't expect, we haven't levied that much in rural services anyway, so I don't expect you'll have to use all of that, especially since the numbers other than health insurance not in there, the numbers are down. Your rural service rate was current year is 3.5947. I don't anticipate that you're gonna have to go up to that 387.
3.59.
3.5947. Debt levy was 98 cents. And I'd have to pick up some of that stuff to see what.
The debt levy or something?
Oh, I was trying to find maybe stuff on the.
We're gonna take up future agenda items for just a minute. And, again, we hope to have a meeting this time with Dr. Kemper. I mean, that job description, the job placement.
So that's part of your,
Yeah.
number 16.
Hopefully.
I don't know if either of you got a text message from Amy Stout requesting that to be, she wants law enforcement out there. And she said since it's budget season, she wanted to know if we could get anything in the sheriff's budget to get somebody out there from like 5 to 11, I think was the time.
Where's this at, where we're at?
At the Floyd County Fair during the
During
annual
the fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I said I didn't know how that would work. I said I wondered if it wouldn't be best to have the sheriff and some representative in the room at the same time and possibly, I guess maybe even somebody could, I don't know what the sheriff price tag is to get them out there, maybe there's other businesses that would donate to that for that purpose.
Don't they spend some time out there now though, too?
Sure.
They do, but I don't know how much or how often. So apparently Amy wants more. So I don't know. I told her I'd bring it to the future agenda items, and that's about the only thing I knew to do with it.
Yeah, it'd be additional to what they've got in their budget now.
Mm-hmm. Apparently Jeff told her it was, he couldn't send staff out there for as long as she wanted because it wasn't in the budget, so. That was my only answer.
That item or?
What's that?
So, is that a future agenda item? You're gonna
Maybe.
share about it or?
I guess so. I mean, talk to the sheriff, see what they. Yeah. Sure.
I've not put my hands on the, all I can find is the 10-year, probably in the minutes somewhere, but I've got the payments, but not the levy rate.
Okay.
Oops, I put it here for you.
Oh, that's right. I'll get those credits in there and.
Okay.
Next meeting and.
So your summit meeting is today? Mark?
Yeah.
What time's that? 3?
Conference board, 209 to 5.
Right. 6.
5, I believe.
5 o'clock?
Five,
Okay.
yeah.
I thought it was 5.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what I got here.
Oh, yeah, projection of those notices, 8,748 notices to mail out in March for budgets.
Okay,
For future agenda items, do we need to make an attempt to get Board of Health over here and planning and zoning and see what to do if we have to hire 2 people or 1?
yeah, we're.
That's gonna be underwritten.
I'm gonna call Dr. Kapler. She's the person there currently that she chairs the board, so. That's. Gonna hire the next county sanitarian or environmental list, so. We'll be talking to her. Hopefully by the next meeting or something. Hopefully she can come. Yeah, I'll make that. The agenda for the wind turbine meeting that's on the 29th, did you get that email? I sent an
I'm just
email.
waiting on what we're doing for how we're accessing it.
With what?
How we're accessing it over there.
Okay, but we can get that out there.
Yep.
Cause we need to do that, because the 29th, today's the 22nd, we need to, I would suggest we put both of them out there at the same time, the press release and the agenda. Instead of waiting on the agenda for 24 hours in front of the meeting. That was attached to that end, but this one, we're gonna have an agenda and a press release for the meeting on the 29th over there.
This is a workshop, not a listening session, right?
Yeah, it was, whatever is referred to in there. Workshop, listening session, we're having a meeting over there.
This is at the house park.
Yeah, on the 29th
Yep.
at 6 o'clock, but we just need to get that out, because it's the 22nd and we haven't
A week
got
from
that.
today.
I actually had a call, there's a text message. Somebody was, at the, they didn't know, get the notice that it was postponed, so. I don't know how that works, but it said, well, it's on the county website. That's about all I could tell.
What was on the county website?
The, previous meeting at the, Fossil Park was, postponed.
Never on the county website.
Oh, it wasn't.
Yeah, it got discussed, but we never really said it.
Okay,
You know, it's gonna be that date, but it never really happened.
okay,
There was never an official notice went out.
okay.
So,
Yeah, I
The
actually,
minutes had the date, because that was the date for the listening session.
yeah, I actually had an overlapping meeting, and so I
Wasn't that date of a snowstorm? We have that snowstorm anyway, then.
went to someplace, where the heck was I? I was at a meeting.
so this is a listening session.
This is
This is
listening.
a listening session. It's a, those terms kind of confuse me a little bit, but this is a listening session of both. They've got the, who's gonna present information and questions and answers and all that sort of thing in there.
He's calling it a workshop. This is a workshop.
Okay,
But that's what, when he had the Mid-American Alliance, that's what he wanted to be a workshop for the two boards. But the listening session was for the people to tell you guys what they want.
what
So
is
he's
it?
got it listed.
What is, that's what it is a workshop?
He's calling it a joint educational meeting workshop agenda.
Okay, and then there's two things, and then the next to that is the agenda for the two boards, the commission and the board, right?
It just says Floyd County Board of Supervisor and Zoning Commission joint meeting. Joint, or, what he's got, he's missing the T on there. It's supposed to be joint educational meeting, joint educational meeting workshop agenda. And the press release also is saying workshop.
We have those two things. An agenda and a press release. And we just need to get them out there. Because it's week today.
29.
And then post it over here and all that. Okay, is there anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
Moved by, Jorgensen, second by Kiefer to adjourn. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. You're adjourned.
To turn off the music, press